And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Gifford versus Swisher. Step forward, please.
Plaintiff Donna Gifford is suing her ex-boyfriend, construction worker Fred Swisher, for illegally evicting her from their home. Fred says Donna is vindictive and out of control.
Ms. Gifford, you and the defendant lived together as boyfriend and girlfriend from when to when?
From October of 2003 till June of 2004.
And you moved into his apartment?
His house, yes.
Into his house?
Yes.
Did you pay him any rent?
Yes, I did.
When?
June of 2004.
So from October of 2003 until June of 2004, you paid him no rent?
No.
Now, this lawsuit is about the fact that you claim that sometime in June of 2004, you gave him a check for $500. And within 2 days of that, he locked you out of the house.
Correct.
So you want not only your $500 back, but you want 10 times those damages because you claim he illegally evicted you.
Absolutely.
From the house. Why did you put her out of the house?
This all happened on the 17th, which was Thursday. On the 12th, it was a Saturday. We got into a real bad fight.
Was it a verbal fight or a physical fight?
Verbal fight, but the police were called later that day.
Okay. That was on the 12th?
Yes.
What happened after the 12th?
Well, Sunday we got back together, made an amends. Monday she wrote me a check for $500. $400 of it was supposed to be to help pay the bills. $100 of it was supposed to be to pay for my phone that she threw in the canal on Saturday.
Did you throw his phone in the canal on Saturday?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
What happened to his phone?
I don't know.
Don't smile. What happened to his phone? You don't make up a story like that.
I don't know what happened to his phone. It was in the canal. It fell off his boat.
It went into the canal. How did it get there?
We were on the boat that day.
And?
And I don't know how it got in the canal. It was in the canal.
How did it get into the canal?
I never had possession of my phone that day. She had picked it up and stuck it in a baggie when we got on the boat, because that's what we usually do so they don't get wet. And then the next day, we couldn't find my phone, and I took off. Later, she had called me and said, I seen it in the water by your dock, and she fished it out.
Okay, so she didn't throw it into the canal. You didn't have a fight on the boat, did you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you did have a fight on the boat.
That's where it all started.
Well, it seems to me, Miss Gifford, that it was a good idea for you to not live anymore as a couple. Wouldn't you say that?
Well, yes, in a sense.
What do you mean in a sense?
That. Well,
yeah, but listen to me. If you're fighting with somebody,
right,
to the extent that the police are called, it's a good idea that one of you leave.
Correct.
Well, you didn't expect that to be Mr. Swisher. It's his house.
Correct.
So it had to be you.
Correct.
So why didn't you leave after this altercation on the 12th?
Because he kept telling me, nope, I don't want you to go. I'm sorry, I got drunk. I shouldn't have acted this way. I'm sorry I locked the doors. I promise I won't do it again. Okay, fine. I'd stay or I'd move back in. I mean, this was a constant thing.
You should have been smart enough to say, listen, I'm not going to be a yo-yo. I'm going to find my own place to live, or I'm going to pay rent, or I'm going to pay for my own expenses.
Right.
I don't need you. Do you work?
I was working at the time. I got fired because of this.
So, let's talk about the $500. On the 15th of June, she gave you a check for $500.
Yes.
And then 2 days later, you changed the locks.
No, I didn't change the locks. She agreed to move out, and I moved her out for her.
Fine. Terrific. So you have to give her back her $500.
Even for the cell phone?
Yeah. Because I don't think that there's proof that she vindictively threw the cell phone overboard. You said you handed her the cell phone, you put it in a baggie, as you usually did, and she asked her where it was, and she said she saw it in the canal. Mr. Swisher, she gave you $500. You put her out. You lived together for 11 months. She wasn't paying rent, according to you, until the very last moment. So you took her money, and then you said goodbye. And you moved her out, which was a good thing. But you have to give it back at $500. Don't be a baby. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Good?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good. Thank you.
All right, Judge Judy, let's step out.
It was all a messed up deal all the way around.
All you had to do is give me my $500 back. That's it.
And I probably do owe her the $500 back, because within 2 days I asked her to leave my house.
You want me out? Just tell me, leave.
We were both so much in love at one time, and it just seemed like it all just kind of went kaput.
Don't say 1 minute you love me and next minute I hate you.
I'll probably always care for her.
I just want to be treated with respect.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lester versus Lester. Step forward, please.
Marilee and Thomas Lester are suing their daughter, 22-year-old food server Natasia Lester, for the unpaid balance on a 97 Saturn. Natasia claims her parents took the car away from her.
Mr. and Mrs. Lester, this is your daughter. How old are you?
22.
According to your complaint, you co-signed for a car for your daughter about 2 years ago. And the agreement was that she was to make the payments on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And she did make payments on the car for 2 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And then something happened. She was in an accident. And according to you, she just stopped making payments on the car. She said her insurance lapsed and she stopped making payments on the car. You want the car payments because
Yes, ma'am.
you don't want your credit to be ruined. Your daughter says that she made the payments for 2 years, and I assume that she intended to keep on making the payments, but that you had the car towed from her place of employment to your house, and she no longer has the car.
That is true.
So then I guess a lot of this has to do with timeline. Why you're suing your child, I don't even want to get into. But you purchased the car when, Natasia?
In September of 2002?
May I see the paperwork? Do you have the paperwork?
Yes, ma'am.
May I see it, please?
Do you want just the contract or just all of the paperwork? Here's the contract.
Good luck.
Yes, it's very small. It was faxed over.
I couldn't find the original.
What were your payments, Natasia?
$188.57
And you made the payments from September 2002 until when?
until August of 2004.
When was the accident?
It was in September of 2004.
And what did you do with the car?
I left it at my place of employment, trying to get it fixed. I had made arrangements with a friend of mine that worked there, and he was going to help me get it fixed.
What was wrong with the car?
I ran over a tire on the freeway, and the extent of the damage, I'm not quite sure exactly. I know the radiator was busted. It was undrivable. I had to have it towed.
And according to your parents, you let the insurance lapse on the car.
Yes, I had.
Why is that?
Just making payments for other things, and I know that I shouldn't have, but it got lapsed. That was on my own fault. I let that happen.
Now, you did in fact tow the car,
Yes.
Yes, I put it on a trailer and took it to my house.
and then you went over to speak to her.
Yes.
Well, tell me about the conversation.
I just asked her how she was doing and what happened, and she's told me she couldn't. She swerved trying to avoid a tire, and then she just kept driving the car because she didn't want to stop. Then I said, well, are you okay? She says, yes, I'm fine.
Okay.
And then I just went back to my work, and I was talking to my guys at work what to do with the car. And I said, well, I'll have to bring it over to my shop and check it out to see what really needs to be done. I had no knowledge that she was going to have anything to do with getting it fixed with
Well,
anybody
didn't
over
you
there.
ask her?
No, I did not at that time.
Why not?
I figured, well, I'll just take it to my house. That way I can take care of it, get it fixed, and we can get it back on the road.
Mr. Lester, you just precipitously took her car away. You can't do that.
The car's still in my name too, ma'am.
You can't do that, sir.
She said that there's no need to make the payments now that the car's wrecked. So she told
No,
me.
you just made that up as you're going.
No, ma'am.
I assume you're fixing it, right?
No, I'm not fixing it.
Well, I suggest you
I
do.
can't because I didn't have the money.
I suggest, Mr. Lester, that you fix it because you had a contract with your daughter, and you breached that contract when you towed the car without her consent or permission, without having a discussion with her, back to your home. Now, I don't know what else was going on between you and your daughter, but clearly that's not the way family treats family.
Can I go ahead and say something? After we went ahead and had the car towed to our home, she made no contact whatsoever to go ahead and say, you know, what can I do? I know I didn't make the insurance payments. Why, I mean...
I didn't make the car payments.
Didn't make the car payment.
Just a second. Don't say she didn't make the car payments. She did make the car payments. She's not obligated to make the car payments now that you have the car in your possession.
The only reason I towed the car is because my boss, he gets upset when crash vehicles are in his parking lot.
We couldn't leave it in that yard, and she wouldn't
Then you have a
moved it.
discussion with your daughter. You just don't
She
take
was not
it.
at work the next day.
Mr. Lester, Mrs. Lester, you got a lot of excuses. I don't know what problem you have with your daughter. It has nothing to do with this car. Your case is dismissed. You have the car. Fix it and sell it. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She doesn't agree with my lifestyle, and I can't have anybody like that in my life.
When she notified me saying that her and her girlfriend had gotten married and that she was no longer going to have anything to do with me, I was very concerned with that.
She had become a stalker, and I just felt that I didn't want her in my life anymore, and she didn't agree with that, so I had to go for a restraining order.
I have no problem with her lifestyle. I don't like her girlfriend.
She makes little comments. It's not something that she says directly, but she makes little comments, here and there.
If she wants to go ahead and believe that, fine. But I love my daughter very much, and she's, I just want her to be happy.
Something that could have been fixed, and it's gone way out of proportion now.
Underwood is suing her ex-boyfriend, construction worker Sean Burge, for a loan to have his truck lifted and for impound fees. Tammy claims Sean lied to her about being married.
Now, this is case number 492 on the calendar in the matter of Underwood versus Burge. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
You're the wife?
Yes, ma'am.
You're the girlfriend?
The ex-girlfriend.
You're the bargain? Don't see it. So something special that's just between you and you. Miss Underwood, according to your complaint, Mr. Burge and you were involved in a relationship. You didn't know that he was still married at the time.
Correct.
And you loaned him money. Loaned him
Correct.
money to do something called lifting his truck. I don't know what that means. You'll explain it to me in 10 seconds or less. Then you bailed out his car when it got impounded. What else?
2 tickets.
2 tickets. And you said you made loans to him because you actually thought that you were going to be building a life together based upon his promises and his statement that you were going to go to live in Arizona together and whatever. When you tried to find out when he was going to pay you, you went to his house and lo and behold, his wife answered the door.
Correct.
Mr. Burge says everything that you gave him that he acknowledges he took were given as gifts.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he never fooled you. You knew that he was married and that he had children because he has tattoos of them all over him.
Tattoos does not mean that he's
That they're still together.
married, or the fact that...
And he says he doesn't owe you a quarter. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
How long are you married, Mr. Burge?
Over 6 years.
You have children?
Yes, 4.
When did you leave your wife?
Around April, May.
And when did you meet Miss Underwood?
Right at the end of May.
Where?
Through an ad in the paper.
What kind of an ad?
It was like a penny saver ad.
What did it say? Shh, quiet!
It said, this is who I am. And so I responded to it. She sounded interesting.
Why, after 6 years of marriage and 4 children, you separated? In a couple of weeks, you felt the necessity to find somebody else?
It's just I like having someone around. I wasn't out to build a relationship. I was out to find a friend. And, things were going good with us.
And when, for the first time, did she give you money?
It would be September 9th, if I'm not
that right?
mistaken.
Yeah.
September 9th.
But I didn't give him anything.
Shh. Tell me what she gave you money for.
She did a lift on my truck.
Well, I don't know what that means. A lift for your truck means it's raised off the ground?
It raises it off the ground with bigger tires.
Why did you need that?
It was just something I wanted.
You have 4 children, so don't you think you should want to send them more money than raise your truck off the ground?
My children are well taken care of.
How much money did you earn?
Say again?
How much money did you earn?
I was making $15 an hour.
Oh, my God. A fortune. So what you're telling me is on $15 an hour, you can support your 4 children and you.
My wife works also.
How old are your children?
Twin 9-year-olds, a 5-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old boy.
And who watches them when you're both working?
Daycare.
Who pays for the daycare?
We do.
Really? Your wife must be a very successful CEO of a major company.
No, she just works very hard for what she gets.
Harder than you.
We work equally.
Really? What kind of work do you do, Miss Burge?
I work for the phone company.
What's your annual salary?
54.
So you're the primary breadwinner in your family?
I make more an hour, yes.
Stand up. How many months were you separated from your husband?
Roughly about 6.
How much money did he send you for support during those 6 months?
We still live together, but we just stayed.
Is what you're telling me, Miss Burge, that you still lived under the same roof while you were separated?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know that, Miss Underwood?
No, I did not.
You think your husband told that to her?
I don't know.
Trust me. Did he tell you about Miss Underwood?
No, we didn't share personal stuff about each other.
No, only 4 children. Did you ask him where he got the money to have his truck lifted?
No, ma'am.
Let's see. Where did Mr. Burge tell you that he was living?
He said exactly where he was living.
Had you ever been there to visit him?
No, because he was always at my house.
How often was he at your house?
A couple times during the week, not for very long, but he came over a couple times during the week on Sundays, because Sunday was his only day off.
But you never went to his house until you were looking for him for the money?
Until New Year's Eve, correct.
Well, you weren't looking for him for the money New Year's Eve. You were just looking to find him?
I actually was just looking to find him because he told me that we would be together, and then his friends called and said that he was drunk and passed out, so they were taking him to their house. So I decided that enough was enough, and I wanted to go find out what was going on, and lo and behold, the wife and 4 kids answered the door.
Mr. Burge, did you tell Miss Underwood that you were still living at home with your wife?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
I didn't see it as relevant at the time. We were just friends.
Well, you were friends, you were intimate.
Yeah.
You had taken money from her.
Yeah.
You knew that she had feelings for you.
Yes.
Did you feel as if you were being honest with her?
Not completely, no.
Right. I think you got the better end of the deal.
I think so, too.
Unfortunately, she didn't find out about his character until they had 4 children together.
That's her problem.
That's her problem. And not only that,
she can have him. I don't want him.
she can have him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Underwood says ex-boyfriend Sean Burge owes for having his truck lifted and for impound fees. Tammy says Sean is living a double life.
Tell me about having the truck lifted.
He said that the weight of all the tools and stuff he used for work weighed the truck down too much, so if we did that, then it wouldn't be as much of a strain on the truck. And at that point, I'm agreeing that, you know, we're going to try and start a life. We had already talked about starting a life, and I told him, okay, I said, this is the deal. I have a credit card that just got paid off. We could do this, but you have to make the payments on it.
And he said?
He said, okay. He said that would not be a problem. He would be able to make the payments. So we...
Now let me hear your version of the truck, sir.
Your Honor, weeks before that, we were talking. My birthday was coming up in October, and she asked me, you know, what do you want for your birthday? Jokingly, I said, I'd like to get my truck lifted. I never made arrangements to pay anything back, because if I could afford to pay her back on it, I would have paid for it myself.
What was the next thing you paid off for him?
His truck got towed.
When did your truck get towed?
I don't remember the exact date.
And what did you do when you found out it was towed?
I called to her and asked her if she could get it out.
Why don't you call your wife?
I didn't choose to.
You can either have a happy life or an unhappy life. The choice is yours. Do you understand?
I understand.
Just because you make an initial mistake doesn't mean that you have to go through your whole life suffering for it. How much did it cost to have the truck lifted?
$32.50.
How much did it cost to get the car out of impound?
$318.
And now we have the tickets. What about the tickets? Did he ask you to pay those tickets?
Yes, he called me at work and said, can we afford for you to pay the tickets? And I said, there's no we. I can do it if you can make the payments. I said, you have to agree to make the payments.
How much were the tickets?
One was $606 and one was $446.
What do you want to say?
I wanted to mention that I just want to reflect back on something that she had said when she said that he used to come over quite frequently. He works Monday through Saturday, and he was only gone on a Sunday a few times that I can recall.
Well, what do you think that this phantom relationship that he had with Miss Underwood was?
I really don't know. I wasn't involved in it, but
right. You do know, however, that he solicited her friendship while the two of you were married and living under the same roof. Mm-hmm. That he asked her for help, according to him, right?
Right.
Or something that someone would say to a new friend. We're building something together. I need some help right now. Separated from my wife, whatever. We're divorced. I don't know. Did he say he's separated or divorced?
No, said he was divorced for about 1.5 years.
Got it? Got it?
I understand that.
Do you believe her that that's what he said? I want you to believe her, Miss Burge.
Okay.
That's what he said.
May I mention another thing?
Sure.
The night that she showed up on our doorstep, she did mention to me that she had told him that he needs to put an effort toward the relationship or she was going to sue him for the money.
And your point would be?
You know, it was okay for her to do this for him until she found out that we were still living together and that he and I ended up going, you know, started working on a relationship and he left her.
Because you got the prize. Is that right? Because you got the prize? And she didn't.
Weird.
And she didn't. I want to tell you, my darling, you got the booby prize. He's an unethical, amoral man who used her when it suited him. And he didn't even have the decency to say to her, I'm going back to my wife. I know you spent almost $5,000 on me. I'm going to pay you back, little by little, whatever it takes, because I don't want you to feel as if you've been abused by me. Do you understand? That would have been a decent human being. Instead, he says, see ya. You feel like a fool? You were a fool? I'm going back to my wife with my new lifted truck. And if that's the kind of character you want your children to grow up around, stick with them. You will reap what you sow. The next fool will be you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,620. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Why did you excuse? You messed up out.
We started building a life together. He said he loved me, and I never knew about the wife until New Year's Eve.
I didn't lie to her about anything. I might not have told her things, but I didn't lie to her.
We had all kinds of plans. It wasn't just like a month, okay, boom, done, you know.
It just didn't work between me and her.
Christmas, you know, he promised my son he would be there, and all of a sudden didn't show.
Mistress is a mistress, you know. You end up coming out with everything or you come out with nothing.
It really hurt because I was in love with him, so, but she can have him.
23-year-old student Derek Carnahan is suing his ex-fiancée, medical secretary Samantha Parisi, for the return of an engagement ring. Samantha is countersuing for unpaid rent and the return of furniture.
Order. All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 525 on the calendar in the matter of Carnahan versus Parisi. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
All right, this doesn't look like a very complicated case. Let's see how expeditiously we can deal with it. Can I have the ring, please? Mr. Carnahan, this is your former fiancée. She is the mother of your child.
Yes, ma'am.
You were engaged. You broke off the engagement. You want the ring back.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why you shouldn't have the ring back.
He should not have the ring back because he has cheated on me, he was physically abusive, and agreed to stop drug use in order to continue on with the marriage. And he did not do as he agreed.
And what did you find out about first? Cheating or the drugs or being abusive?
First was the abusive.
Okay. That should have been your first clue. Arrivederci, adios, sayonara, whatever, goodbye. Who are you?
I am her mother.
Right. Good, sit down. You agree with me?
Totally. Went
Good.
through that for 7 years.
Good. So after he abused you, you stayed with him for 7 years, and did he abuse you before or after you had a child with him?
After.
Before you had a child with him, he wasn't abusive?
A little bit. More verbally abusive.
Abusive is abusive. So, he's abusive, you have a child with him, then he becomes verbally and physically abusive. And when was he using the drugs, before or after you had the child?
After.
And what about you?
I used drugs with him at the end.
After?
After the child, yes.
And when did he cheat on you?
In December of '04.
So you think that you're lucky to be rid of him, right?
Correct.
Who's paying for the ring?
My mother has for the past 5 months.
Is that right?
That's incorrect.
Well, show me the bills and show me your checks that you paid for it.
She did make 2 payments. We had a verbal agreement. I had a verbal agreement with Linda.
When was the last time you made a payment?
November. She made December and January.
How many payments did you
Your
make?
Honor, he stopped making payments. She moved back into my house in June. he immediately stopped making payments.
On the ring?
On the car.
I'm not talking about the... I don't care. Listen.
Okay, the
I'm
ring
talking
was
about
paid
ring.
for.
What?
The ring was paid for by my co-signing of a note on his car.
So the car is actually
Financed.
paid off. I mean, the ring's actually paid off, I'm sorry.
Ring was
Oh,
paid
just a
upon
second.
purchasing.
I see. So you used the car as collateral?
Exactly.
And they've got the car also.
How much did you physically actually pay towards this ring?
The whole entire amount.
Well, you paid for it with the car loan.
That's correct.
And when was the last time you paid on the car loan?
November. November, December. I've been try to have verbal. I had a verbal agreement with her. She used my daughter as a pawn to come and try to repossess my car, and you know, I mean, they owe me money. Samantha owes me $500 previous to this.
Just a second. I'm getting unsympathetic with you, sir.
Okay.
How much did the ring cost?
$42.95.
How much did you take out a loan on the car for?
I put $1,000 down. I had $1,000 cash in the bank, and I put down $32.95 that I borrowed from the bank.
Do you have the car?
Well, it's, yeah, repossessed or has it in storage.
Okay, so you have the car.
I have the car because when she left the relationship in June, he stopped making payments.
On the car?
On the car.
I understand that, but the car, let's say this and the car are one and the same as far as the money is concerned.
Right.
So if you have the car, he gets to keep the ring. If you have the car...
Well, but there was more too. When she
I don't care
left
what
the
you-
house, he took all the furnishings.
Sit down. I'm
and-
not... Listen to me. Okay. Sit down. Listen. Sit down. Give him the ring. You people are playing with each other. You're not going to play with me. Okay, now you have the ring back. Now I get to the counterclaim. You lived in an apartment together.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You say in your counterclaim that you were being sued by the landlord for unpaid rent after you left that he should be responsible for, that you have paid. Can I see that you have paid money to the landlord? Are you on the lease?
Yes.
Good. How much did you pay?
I am making monthly payments.
In what amount?
I owe $100 a month for 12 months.
Because they evicted you, is that right? They evicted you, is that right?
No, ma'am.
That's what the manager said.
I'd already moved out. I mean, when they filed for that deal, I was already moving out. I was in the process of moving out. They were.
When was your lease up, sir?
I'd say probably June or July. The lease was up.
Why do you think she should be responsible for this $1,200?
Not the total $1,200. I don't believe she's totally responsible for that. I mean, I feel I'm half responsible just as well as she.
Good, give me the ring back.
Judge Judy continues in a moment and says ex-fiancée Samantha Parisi won't return the engagement ring. Samantha says Derek abused her and cheated on her.
You threw her out of the apartment.
No, I didn't totally throw her out.
Oh, yes, you did. That's what you said. That's what you swore to in your complaint. You said, I broke up with her and told her to leave.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, when you moved into this apartment, who purchased the furniture?
It was mainly my furniture. It's my furniture. I purchased the furniture.
Show me.
There's nothing I can show you. I mean, I've got a list of furniture she's got, that she took, and I took some, and she took some. And we
She took some when she left?
Yes.
What did you take when you left?
A bag with about a week's worth of clothing in it and the clothes on my
What
back.
furniture did she take?
She's got the big screen TV. She's got the kitchen
Just
tables.
a second.
Two of them.
Did you take the big screen TV when you left?
Yes, I did take the TV.
What else?
DVD player, surround sound.
Was that left?
The DVD player was a gift from my mother for Christmas.
And the TV?
We had purchased that.
What else did you take?
All my daughter's belongings, her toys, everything of that nature.
Well, where was the child living?
The child was living with Linda.
So why shouldn't you take the child's toys?
She come and stayed with me, too. At given times. She took everything.
Listen to me, sir.
Yes.
Why did you leave the TV there when you moved out?
I didn't leave it out. She come over while I was gone and took all this stuff.
Just a second. The day that she came over with the landlord, are you telling me that all the furniture was still in the apartment?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you.
All of the furniture was still in the apartment?
There was a majority of the furniture in the apartment.
I said, was all the furniture in the apartment?
No, not all of it.
What had you taken out?
I'd taken...
Be careful what you tell me.
I'd taken my bedroom furniture.
So the bedroom furniture was gone. What else?
I believe the couch was gone.
So the living room furniture was gone. What else?
And that, I mean, that's about it. I mean, I took the couch, the recliner, and my bedroom furniture.
Who bought the couch?
I did.
Is that right?
The couch I do believe he paid for.
And the bedroom furniture?
My money also.
Is that right?
I've got the receipt here. It is in his name, but I have showing that the purchase was taken out of my personal checking account.
Can I see it?
Also, there's a mattress, a Serta pillow top mattress that my mother had purchased, and I don't have a receipt or anything on that. I have an estimate.
Is that right, sir?
She wrote a check for it, and I gave her the cash money.
Well, where did she get money to put in a checking account?
From me.
Only from you? You were the only one working?
Yes, at this time, she didn't work. She hasn't worked. She didn't work for over a year. I supported her and my daughter. She didn't go to school. She didn't work. She didn't do nothing.
Well, who took care of your daughter?
For a period of about 3 months, her mother was watching our daughter.
And what was she doing?
Nothing.
You mean that your daughter was living with her grandmother?
Yes, and Samantha did absolutely nothing.
Just a minute. Let me understand this. Baby was living with the grandmother.
Yes.
And she was living with you.
Yes.
And you permitted that?
I didn't want that, but at that particular time, my name wasn't on the birth certificate due to the help and coaching of Samantha's mother, Linda. So when Linda gets custody of my daughter, I went down to Oklahoma City and filed and put my name on the birth certificate to seek custody.
I have a question for you. Would you stand up, please? You turned the truck. We're getting back to the truck. You turned the truck into the bank.
Yes.
Do you have anything from the bank indicating that they are going to come against you or Mr. Carnahan for a bulk amount of money? Because I assume that they've sold the truck.
No, it's still in storage, and I do have
storage
the
with
note that when they repossessed it, according to the law, they have to put it in storage for 10 or 15 days and give him the opportunity to pay the balance of the note.
And what's the balance of the note?
$2,600 and some odd dollars.
She gets the ring. Thank you very much. Listen to me. This is how this matter is resolved. Sell the ring. Pay off the car. Got it?
Yes.
Get your name out of anything that has to do with his loan. He may get the car because it's titled in his name. He may get it back. Your obligation is going to be over. Do you understand that, sir? You don't like it? That's too bad. If she sells the ring and gives the bank the money, you should be able to get the car back.
Well, the police have called her and told her they were going to press criminal felony charges if she didn't return the car, and she said...
You should have made the payments, sir. You brought it on by yourself. You're a smart aleck. Should have made the payments, then she wouldn't have had any excuse whatsoever to have the truck repossessed. Clear? Good. I'm not getting into your furniture. It's far too complicated and really very unimportant. You left last summer. If the furniture wasn't so important to you last summer, it shouldn't be important to you this spring. Do you understand? But I don't believe that you should be responsible for rent on the apartment because he threw you out of the apartment. He told you to leave. On your counterclaim, I'm giving you a judgment of $1,200. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He made my life miserable, which resulted in using drugs, and I became a codependent.
She was the only one issued a drug rehabilitation, so she's got the drug problem, not me.
He's a liar. My daughter does not even visit him. She's not allowed to see him.
I've got to hire an attorney and seek legal advice and have a paternity test done. You know, it's going to cost me a couple $1,000s, you know.
He went out, he and his friends, and had a sexual encounter with a woman, and then her life really spiraled.
It's obvious her mom coaches her through pretty much everything. I mean, this is, you know, her 6th marriage, so she's pretty in tune on how the legal system works.
He's abusive and he's crazy. He's got major issues.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kralik versus Killen, step forward, please.
Hairstylist Phil Kralik is suing his former friend, realtor Donnie Killen, for a loan to attend massage therapy school. Donnie claims Phil made the tuition payments behind his back.
Mr. Kralik, you and the defendant were friends, and according to your complaint, you made a loan to him for school tuition.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Callen acknowledges that you paid $2,000 for his tuition at massage therapy school, and according to him, it was a gift. He never made a contract with you for repayment. Is that right?
Correct.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding this loan, Mr. Kralik.
Your Honor, the defendant came to me in June of last year, in 2004, and had expressed the idea of going to massage therapy school. He said
What was he doing at the time?
He was a real estate agent, Your Honor. He said that he was checking into the school. He didn't have enough money to go pay for it himself. He asked me if he could borrow the money, and I felt like I wanted to help him. He was my friend. I was given help when I got into my career, and so I got the money together and wrote a check.
Who did you write the check to?
I wrote the check to the school, Your Honor, and I do have that for you.
I also have a copy, Your Honor.
Mr. Killen, don't speak until I look in your direction.
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to have an opportunity to testify. Right now it's his turn. We know about turns?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Did you give him this check?
No, Your Honor. I took it down to the school.
Was he with you when you took it to the school?
He was there that day, Your Honor, I believe.
Was he with you when you took the check to the school?
Not immediately, no.
Okay. What was the conversation that you had immediately preceding you taking this down to the school?
We had discussed that he needed to have some time to pay it back. I was not in any hurry.
Stop shaking your head. What you're doing is in the form of testifying, sir, and it's irritating to me. You don't want to irritate me before I hear your side of the case, do you?
No.
That would be a very dumb thing for you to do. And what you're doing is irritating me.
Yes,
ma'am. So stop it.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, we discussed that he would need a grace period. It's a clientele building business. I'm in a clientele building business.
What kind of business are you in?
I'm a hairstylist, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I knew it would take him time to get established, and I wasn't worried about getting the money immediately. So we decided we would have installments, that he would pay me a few months after he got out of school. He was my best friend. I wasn't trying to put him in a situation that would set him up for failure.
Did you complete the course?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you currently working in that field?
No, ma'am. The
Why not?
license laws in the state of Illinois have changed. You need an additional 400 hours.
400 hours for what?
In order to become licensed with the state. You need
Of
another 400
practical
hours
work?
of class.
Of class?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when do you intend to do that?
Actually, at this point in time, I don't intend to. The discussion about...
I'm asking you specific questions.
Okay.
So you haven't gone back to work in this field?
Not in this field.
Go ahead.
You know, I made several attempts to collect this money from him with no success, and I decided I had no choice.
Now I'll hear you, sir.
There was never any talk of a loan, Your Honor. The matter was discussed around about May 11th when I was at an appointment at his salon. He did free haircuts and manicures for me because I was his best friend. We discussed approximately around then. I looked into actually the massage school itself. On May the 17th, I enrolled. I actually have a payment plan agreement with the school from when I enrolled.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
So you agreed to pay the school?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So you had every intention of paying for this career-enhancing service?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Go ahead.
When I started school on June the 7th was actually the first day of school. I had gone in and found that Mr. Kralik had made the $2,000 payment to the school, and we had a small discussion after that about him going in and doing it. He did it before I actually made it to class that day, and he said that this was just something he did for friends. He assisted friends in this manner.
He didn't say to you something like, you know, when you have a tuition plan at the school, you have to pay them a certain time. But I figure if I gave you this $2,000, we can have a more flexible repayment schedule, you know, when you get clients or when you get
No,
back
ma'am.
into
The school was
business.
very flexible with their payment plans, but I had $15,000 worth of closings coming up in the next couple of months, which I could have actually paid the school and had every
Fine.
intention.
That's very nice. Now, and you're no longer friends.
No.
And you had this $15,000 from your real estate coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you feel it would be appropriate, if you had all intentions of paying for the school, sir, to give him back the money that he invested?
He, on several occasions, had held it above my head in arguments.
He held it over your head in
Anytime.
arguments. What, like what?
Anytime there was an argument, he'd always say, well, I paid for your massage school. And I had actually voiced to him, well, then on my next closing, I will give you the money back. That
Yes.
way, you'll just leave me alone and not
Right.
bother me anymore with it. And he had told me on those several occasions he would not cash those checks. I told him I knew who he borrowed the money from, and I would go write the check directly to him.
So are you telling me, Mr. Killen, that the plaintiff borrowed money, because he didn't have the $2,000 in cash, to give it to you for school tuition, because you didn't have the money at the time, but you were expecting $15,000 in within a couple of weeks? Is that what you're telling me?
Correct, ma'am.
You're some piece of work, Mr. Killen.
He has never requested payment. He's never asked for any
Well,
payment
what do you
on
think
this.
he's doing
There was
here?
never
You
any
think he's
establishment of a
doing?
loan.
I'm speaking. You think he's here, sir, because he wants to ask me out on a date?
I think he's here because...
He's here because he wants his $2,000.
I think he's here because this is another of his vindictive actions. He does this to everyone.
Well,
And I even have a witness to testify to his vindictive actions.
To you?
To his vindictive
To
actions
you?
towards me, yes.
Tell me your name.
My name is Chris.
Chris, you have a last name.
Eddie.
How do you know him?
I don't know Mr. Kralik. The only time I met him was when I was assisting Donnie from moving from his apartment into the condo that he had purchased.
And?
There was a discussion while we were at the condo. Mr. Kralik made the comment that he wouldn't make Mr. Killen go through the property management to get his deposit back if they were still friends. We had to...
If they, just a second, if they were still friends, he wouldn't make Mr. Killen go to the property manager to get his deposit back.
Right.
Okay, that's the vindictive testimony that you wanted me to hear? I just want to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Killen, you're a big boy. Take care of your obligations. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
There was never a loan. He's just vindictive, and that's the reason we're here.
I'm very pleased with her verdict. I think justice won.
He was very violent. He threw a phone at me at one point in time.
I've never been violent. I've never thrown a phone.
Very argumentative.
A pillow, maybe, not a phone.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Berkheimer versus Dukes. Step forward, please.
20-year-old student Sherry Berkheimer is suing her ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old air conditioning maintenance man Destin Dukes, for money loaned to make improvements on his house. Destin claims Sherry lived with him, expense-free, for 3 years.
Ms. Berkheimer, according to your complaint, you and the defendant lived together for a period of time. You were involved in a relationship. And sometime, about a year ago, you gave him money to help him remodel his house. It was a loan, according to you, to buy materials, etc. And a couple of months later, he threw you out.
Yes.
You want the money back?
Yes.
Can I see proof of the loan?
I never received proof of the loan, but I have receipts that I have from bank statements that I put into the home, and I have pictures of the home, too.
I don't want to see pictures of the home, madam. I want to see money that you gave him towards the house.
Okay.
Ma'am.
I'm sorry.
You watch the show?
Yeah, I do. I hand them to you. I'm sorry. Okay, this is all of her paperwork.
Okay.
Sorry.
What is this that you're giving me? This is a...
I have, it's the most recent ones of credit cards and a cash sheet, and I have more receipts, too, of Lowe's, which is receipts.
What are you showing me? Is what you're telling me that you gave him money, or is what you're telling me that you charged certain things on a bank credit card, Home Depot, plumbing, millwork, etc.?
The house was all remodeled, and I bought all the supplies to remodel the home, which is like drywall, paint, stuff you cannot take out of the home, which is like...
So why didn't you just give him money for it?
Because he has bad credit and I have really good credit, so he referred me to get a couple credit cards so I would help him out with the credit cards. And he
were the credit cards in both your names?
No, just in my name.
And you're talking about bills that started 2 years ago?
Yes, ma'am.
3.
What?
2 to 3 years ago.
How long did you live together?
I lived there for probably about 2 months, and then after the 2 months, he told me he didn't want anything to do with me.
Prior to that, where did you live?
I lived at my parents' house most of the time because we were always fighting all the time and we never really got along.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Sherry Berkheimer says ex-boyfriend Destin Dukes owes for the money she spent to make improvements on his house.
Where did she live?
She lived with me for about 2 years, and before that she lived with me at my parents' house for about a year. She never paid a dime of rent, and she lived off me pretty much for free. That was the agreement.
Well, just a second. So, let's start with this. You acknowledge that she spent in excess of $5,000 on materials for the house.
No, it wasn't even close to $5,000.
How much?
Maybe $1,500.
No, it's more, sir.
But if it is more, it was because of a refrigerator, a stove, and a dishwasher, and
I deducted those. I'm sorry.
that she
took all out of the house. The only thing left in the house was French doors and some drywall.
What about plumbing stuff?
Plumbing I pitched in on too. That's the thing. She had all the receipts.
No, I have. It's just on her credit card. So.
There's some receipts in there without credit.
528, 537. This is all plumbing.
She did buy a lot of stuff, but I don't believe I owe her because she lived off me for free. Never had a job. It was some settlement money.
Well, you have to explain to me, sir. Your agreement is what you're telling me, that she purchased all these things for a house that was in your name, and that when she asked you for this money back, which she did after she left, is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Only because she was...
Did she call you and ask you for the money back?
She came to my house.
And she said, what did she say?
She asked for it. She said she wanted some money because I was kicking her out, just because I was breaking up with her because she wouldn't get a job.
No, that's not what she said to you, sir. Listen to me. She didn't say, I want some money because you're kicking me out and I'm not going to get a job, so therefore you have to give me money. Do you understand what I'm saying to you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
She came to your house, and what did she say?
She said, I think you owe me money.
And what did you say to her?
I said, I don't owe you no money.
And she said, why don't you owe me any money? And you said? Because
you lived off me for free for 3 years.
And what did she say?
Exactly what she just said.
Which
that she didn't live off me for free.
What difference is if you paid the bills?
I paid all the bills and bought her food and everything else.
So, did you have an agreement with her that she was going to pay you back?
No, the agreement was that I would support her and I would pay the bills if she pitched in on the house.
Okay. When did you make that agreement with her?
Before we started working on the house.
How much money did you spend on the remodeling?
Equal amount.
Show me.
I didn't say. She had some of the receipts, and the other receipts I didn't save any of them.
How did you pay for the other things?
Work. Or
cash or credit card?
That's why cash. It wasn't on a credit card. That's why I don't have a receipt.
Now, I'd like you to tell me, you started to make these payments on your credit card 2 years before you separated.
Yes, that's correct, ma'am.
How much did he pay you back?
Zero amount.
Why not?
Because we got into a fight as soon as we broke up, and he told me because...
I know, I'm not asking you as soon as you broke up. You broke up 2 years later. You started making payments on things for the house 2 years before you broke up. And he made no payments, and yet you continued to charge things on your credit card. And my question to you is why?
Because I thought, we were together for a long time, and I was young and naive at the time. I was young. I was only 17. And I thought, we were going to build a house together, he would start paying for the bills, and like the credit cards and all that, and
What you started to tell me was correct. That you may have been young and naive, but you paid for these expenses on a house that you intended at that time in your mind was going to be your joint house at one point. So this was not a loan. You don't make it a loan because you break up. A loan is, here's $5,000 towards the remodeling of the house. I expect you to pay this back to me whether we become engaged, whether we get married, whether we have 6 children or whatever. This is a loan. But when over the course of 2 years you continue to make payments to remodel a house, expect nothing in return during those 2 years. Just because you break up, it doesn't mature into an obligation that you can sue on. You understand?
Yes.
He took the money from you. There's no question about that, that you paid for things in the house. And I do not believe, Mr. Dukes, that you had an agreement with her, that she was an agreement, a verbal agreement, one that was articulated, that she was making these payments because she lived rent-free.
That's exactly why she was making.
I don't believe that, sir. What I do believe is that she anticipated that you would have a life together and that this house that you had purchased and that she was helping remodel was going to be the home that you would eventually live in together.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Good. That's not a loan. That's a dashed dream. But it doesn't make for a lawsuit. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She got a settlement, and that's where the money came from that she was buying the stuff with.
I'm making payments on things that I don't even live in anymore.
She was just upset that I left her.
20-year-old bowling alley worker Michael Gilliott is suing his former friend, 22-year-old mechanic John Bogus, for the cost of tires and spinner rims.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 503 on the calendar in the matter of Gilliott versus Bogus. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Mr. Gillian, what do you do for a living, sir?
I currently work at a bowling and billiards hall.
How much do they pay you for doing this job?
$6.50 an hour.
Where do you live?
My dad.
How old are you?
20 years old.
Pay rent to your dad?
No.
So you live there rent-free?
Yeah, I had my own apartment for a while. I moved home because I'm actually moving out of state in a couple months, so I moved home to save up money.
How much you bring home every week?
Well, not as much as a couple $100 a week, $300-400 a week.
What?
Couple
you bring home
$100 a week.
$400 a week?
Well, paychecks.
He said a couple of hundred, three,
Yeah,
400.
well,
A couple to
I
me
get
is
paid.
2, right? And then he said 300-400.
Well, I get paid every 2 weeks, and my paychecks range between $300 and $400. That's what I make, Your Honor.
Oh, so you make between $150 and $200 a week?
Yes.
And you, sir, how old are you?
22.
And what do you do for a living?
Service technician on fire trucks and ambulances.
And how much do you make?
$10 an hour.
Where do you live?
Lincoln with my mom.
Pay rent?
No, I don't.
How much do you bring home every 2 weeks?
About $600 every 2 weeks after my child support.
After child support?
Yep.
What kind of child support?
I got a 14-month-old son.
And how much do they take out of your check for that?
$600 a month for child support and daycare.
I'm asking these questions because this is what this case is about.
Okay.
Mr. Gilliott bought a truck from Mr. Bogus and paid him like $4,000 for the truck.
Yeah, roughly.
What's roughly?
It was, I believe, $4,200.
And then this person who makes $150 a week goes out because the truck is running. It's a nice truck, right?
It is a nice truck.
He goes and puts something out, spinners and new wheels on the truck.
Of course.
For another $3,800.
Oh, yeah. Good
Something no one can live without, especially when you're saving up to start a new life. Starting a new life, most people would buy a bed or a couch. Spinners and wheels is almost like sunshine. Can't live without it.
It was.
Then what?
I'm sorry. It was $3,200. Was the
$3,200. Excuse me.
Just let you know.
Another $3,200. Then, according to Michael over here, he runs into John, and John says, "Gee, love the way that car looks with those spinners and wheels. I'm really sorry I sold it to you. I want it back. I'd love to buy it back from you." Just about that time, Michael loses his job and has fallen on some tough financial times.
I wonder why.
This is not what he just told me just now. But he said, fine, I'll sell you back the truck. You give me $4,500 for the truck, and you can pay me the other $3,000 that I spent for the
spinners
and wheels when you get it. And he sells him back the truck. And according to Michael, John paid him about $200 towards the spinners and wheels, and then has been avoiding him. So far, I'm pretty right?
One thing, I also have another form of income. The car deal, buying and selling them, is one thing I've done since before I even had a driver's license with my dad. He's a body man. So we would buy cars for $1,000 or less and put a couple $100 into them and sell them to make
So
profit.
you have an auxiliary source of income.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I liked the way the truck looked. I told him it's a nice looking truck, you know, and I never said anything about wanting to buy it back. I said I wish I could have it back. It looks good.
Oh, you said I wish I could have it back.
Yeah.
It looks good.
It looks real good.
Oh, okay, good. Go ahead.
And a couple weeks later, he calls me and he's like, "You got the title for my truck?" And I was like, "Why, are you selling it?" He's like, "You want to buy it back?" I was like, "Yeah, I got $4,000
Just a
cash."
second. You mean you hadn't given him the title?
No.
Why not?
It was about 2 weeks.
Why hadn't you given him the title?
He never asked for it, and it's just...
What?
He waited 2 weeks to ask for it.
How do you sell a truck without the title? Can I see the bill of sale, please, for the truck?
Don't have one.
Did you register the truck in your name?
No, but as far as the title goes, I had requested it on multiple occasions.
Just a second. Okay. Your business, according to you, was buying and selling vehicles?
Yes.
And selling. So what you're telling me is, what you want me to believe is that you have no bill of sale, you never registered the truck in your name.
That's true.
You never insured the truck.
That's true.
You invested $3,200 in a truck that was not titled to you. Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Is that right?
Yes, that's true.
And do you know what I say to both of you? Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Parties in the matter of Terry versus Barnes. Step forward, please.
General contractor Stephen Terry is suing his neighbor, 24-year-old restaurant manager Roger Barnes, for throwing a rock through the front window of his house. Roger says Stephen's brother was antagonizing him.
Mr. Terry, Mr. Barnes is your neighbor. It's your claim that on a particular date, which you'll tell me in a moment, he came to your house, he was drunk, he took a rock, he threw it through your window, you wanted to pay for the window. Mr. Barnes says it wasn't a rock that broke your window, it was his jacket that broke your window and its heavy buttons, so he's not paying for your window, right?
Right.
Uh-huh. What date did he break your window?
It was St. Patrick's Day this year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Are you Irish?
Nope.
But you celebrate with the Irish?
Yeah.
Were you celebrating on St. Patrick's Day?
Yes.
Were you a little drunk?
A little bit.
Okay. So your jacket broke the window?
Yeah.
No, not yeah. Yes was good. Yes was good before. Yes, so you should stick to yes.
Yes.
Tell me how it came about that your jacket broke the window.
Well, actually, I was at my house with my brother here. He's a witness.
Just get to the window, will you please?
All right, well, we got an argument.
I'm interested in the jacket. How the jacket, which was on your body initially, left your body, according to you, caused the breaking of Mr. Terry's window.
Well, I was outside, and we were in a big argument. And
Who was in an argument?
His brother and this guy named Eric. And basically, I thought I was going to have to defend myself against these two guys, and I ripped it off and flung it to the side, and as I did, it broke their window.
Well, show me how high the window was, sir.
It's about, at the bottom of the window.
But when you say you flung your jacket, you indicated you flung the jacket to the ground.
Like this. Over that way.
Now, show me how you do that, sir. Show me how you get up high enough to hit the window.
Yeah,
Don't hit Mr. Terry again.
I won't. Sorry. You could feel it. It's a pretty heavy jacket.
So it was the jacket that broke the window. Yeah. So it's not your fault.
Well, if they wouldn't have been antagonizing me outside, it would have never happened. I was trying to leave and go back to my house. You know, we were in a big argument.
Let me ask you this question. Was Mr. Terry there?
Mr. Terry was there, but he
was he
in the
antagonizing
house.
you?
No, Stephen wasn't.
And who has to pay for his window?
Well, I don't think I should.
Well, who should be? Bird should pay for his window?
No.
Maybe I should pay for his window.
No.
Maybe this camera person should pay for his window.
No.
What do you think? No? Who should pay for his window?
If they weren't antagonizing the situation...
I'm asking you who should pay for the window.
I think they should pay for it.
Who's they?
Stephen and Ryan.
But he wasn't responsible in any way, sir.
I know.
It's not his jacket. Did you get beat up that day?
Nope.
So maybe you were wrong about them trying to antagonize you. You think it's possible that the libation that you consumed on St. Patrick's Day impaired your judgment? Is that a possibility, Mr. Barnes?
Well, they just set me off.
Is that a possibility that the libation that you consumed on St. Patrick's Day impaired your judgment, sir?
Probably had a little bit to do with it, but not much.
All right. I'm not going to torture you much more, sir. This is my daily exercise. It's my breathing exercise for the day. You understand that? Do you think that the fact that you were drinking had more to do with the fact that the window got broken than Mr. Terry?
Well, I mean, if his brother wasn't outside...
Not his brother.
Okay.
He's not right. I'm not my brother's keeper. I'm talking about Mr. Terry.
Okay, no.
So that your drinking had more to do with the window than Mr. Terry's...
Than Stephen did, yeah.
So this is what I suggest you do, sir. How much was the window?
I have a bill for everything. I'm a contractor. I fixed it myself. So
good. How much was it?
$500.
What?
It's an old window. It broke both the panes, and they're old windows.
You're only suing for $325, sir, so don't tell me that you paid $500 to have the window fixed.
I didn't pay for it. That's how much I would charge to do it myself, but that's okay.
How much did you pay for it?
For the glass and the materials?
Yeah.
$100.
$100. And you are a contractor, so you bill for your time. Is that right? And how much do you get paid
Precisely.
for an hour?
55.
55 an hour. How many hours did it take you?
7.
Suing for $325. That's very reasonable for a window. Now, this is what I'm going to tell you, Mr. Barnes. I want you to listen to me very carefully, because you're not clouded by libation now, are you? If you believe that it's somebody else's fault that your jacket that was on your back broke Mr. Terry's window, I suggest that after you pay Mr. Terry $325, you sue those people that you think are responsible. Is that fair?
Sounds fair to me.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $325. Thank you.
Parties actually messed up out.
I thought it was short and sweet.
It's totally unfair. They didn't hear my side of the story at all.
I gave him plenty of opportunity to take care of it himself, and he failed to do so.
I screamed at him, "Get out of my house."
Basically, I was trying to leave the house.
Things started getting out of control.
I ripped my jacket off, flung it to the side, broke their window. It was cheap, old.
I was out on the porch. He was drinking several beers.
I just lost it.
Words being slurred in such a manner, and stumbling and inexplicable violence.
They made some smart remarks about my dead father, which set me off in the first place.
He has a tendency to get a little bit violent when he drinks.
I just think he was pretty much didn't know what he was doing. Had that to the point of blacking out.
Booze and that stuff really doesn't mix.
36-year-old master control operator Josh Ashcroft is suing his ex-fiancée, property manager Julie Skiles, for unpaid rent and bills. Julie is countersuing, claiming Josh stole her dog and rammed her Toyota MR2.
Yes, case number 220 on the calendar, the matter of Ashcroft versus Skiles. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Mr. Ashcroft, you and the defendant were engaged and living together. She moved out with 3 months left to go on a lease that I assume the two of you had signed together.
That is correct.
You want her to pay those 3 months' rent. The defendant says that your behavior forced her out of the apartment, and she is counterclaiming for damage that she says that you did to her truck, a whole bunch of money because she says you've been harassing her, and something about a dog. So let's start with when you moved in together and when you signed the lease.
Okay, like you said, we were engaged. We decided to both move in on a house.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a quick learn. I asked a question. When did you sign the lease? That requires a date,
yes,
not a
ma'am.
story.
We signed it in September of 2003, September 28th.
And when did you move in?
We moved in October 1st, I believe. Just a few
You have
days.
a copy of the lease?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. And what was your agreement with regard to paying for the expenses on this apartment?
We had came to a mutual agreement that we would both pay half.
Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. How many people were supposed to live there?
Two, me and Julie were the only ones that were living in the house at the time when we first
And your dog?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Monthly rent was $900.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you moved out when?
About June 15th.
Is that about right?
It sounds about right. I have the 25th. It wasn't very clear because she did not tell me when she was moving out. She had no intention. I did not have any information of her intention of moving out.
Sir. When did you wake up and find she wasn't there? What day?
Actually, I believe it was the 25th on a Friday when I came home for work and discovered that everything out of the house was gone.
Are you telling me that between the 15th and the 25th she was living there?
She...
is not an answer.
No, ma'am, I don't believe she was. She would come home when I was at work and get her things and stuff.
I want to know when she moved out. The 15th or the 25th. Physically, her body, her person, not her property, her person. When did she move out?
I would say the 25th, Your Honor.
Who are you?
I'm his brother.
You have a name?
Jason Ashcroft, ma'am.
When did you move into the apartment?
I moved in around March, end of March, April.
So you were living in the apartment when they were living there. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How much rent were you paying?
I was paying $350 a month.
You still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Then what are we doing here? Seems nice to have a nice, honest brother, right?
Yes, ma'am.
She moved out June 15th. She moved out June 25th. What difference does it make? Your brother's living there. He's taking over the other part of the rent. So why are you suing her?
Well, because of the fact that there was no 30-day notice given. She was unemployed for 9 months, which meant that I needed to move in someone to help cover her part of the rent.
He moved in before, according to your brother. Is your brother lying? Your brother moved in, it says, in March. She moved out in June. March, April, May, June. That is right, isn't it?
I just needed someone to help cover the rent. I didn't want to be in default on my lease, so I had to move my brother in and help.
Good. And you did that. That's a good thing. So you're not out any money. So I don't know why you're bothering me, Mr. Ashcroft. You want to get to your counterclaim?
Yes, ma'am. Actually,
you gave the right answer, truthful answer. See how fast we resolve this?
Yes,
Plus, your
ma'am.
brother probably will want to take you outside and kill you with it. That's not my problem. Let's deal with your counterclaim.
Okay.
Let's deal with your counterclaim, unless you want to say, listen, I don't want to get involved with this lady. I don't want to deal with her.
Oh, no.
Okay.
On June 15th, the day I moved out, he came home and rammed my car out the driveway with his truck.
Why did he do that?
Why did he do that?
Yeah.
You'll have to ask him.
No.
He wanted me to move my car, and I apparently didn't do it fast enough.
Listen to me. I want you to understand something. I'm not your friend. You have a whole host of friends. Are you related to her?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you her father?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Your father is your friend. You have friends. I'm not your friend. So when I say to you, why did he ram your car with his truck, there was a reason. The reason was he wanted you to move your car, and you weren't moving it fast enough.
Correct.
And you were having an argument with him.
Correct.
All right, there you go. You see? You've been around the block a few times, and you understand things, so that he didn't just wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to ram her car with
No.
my truck.
We were arguing. He had asked me at that time, told me that I needed to leave to move out of the house. Then he went to leave, and my car was parked behind him.
How many times did he ask you to move your car?
One time, and then he went to his truck. I was getting my keys, heard his truck back out into my car, and he moved it himself.
Now, what happened with her car, sir?
I asked her repeatedly to move her car.
And what did she say to you?
She didn't say anything. There was no communication there whatsoever.
So she just ignored you?
Yes, ma'am. She ignored
And
me.
just to take your hands out of your pocket?
Yes, ma'am.
So, you asked her, you said, move your car, things are getting too hot.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was giving you the old passive-aggressive. She wasn't moving, she wasn't getting the keys, she wasn't getting this, So, you got into your car, and what did you do?
She was parked a few feet behind my truck. As I was trying to get out, I tried to maneuver my truck to get out, and I accidentally hit her car.
Okay, so you understand that you have to fix that.
Yes, ma'am.
You have
Of
an
course.
estimate?
Yes.
What's the estimate?
I have two, both for $700, 1702, 1703.
Okay, $700. When you have a bad temper, that's what happens. What else?
Also, I would like to add his harassment. Also on that day when he came home, he kicked in the bathroom door, pushed me against the wall, told me to leave. He calls my work, continuously harassing me.
What is he asking you for at work?
For money and
for money. Well, he's not going to
And stolen property, Your Honor.
For a frying pan.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
A frying pan and a
Take your hands out of your pockets. This claim that you filed here has nothing to do with property. It had to do with rent. Now you're not going to call her anymore for money.
Excuse me, ma'am?
You're not going to call her anymore for money. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
You've litigated it, and you lost. We're just dealing now with her counterclaim. So don't bother her anymore. And your brother is going to tell you that he thinks that's a real good idea, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Ashcroft says ex-fiancée Julie Skiles broke their apartment lease. Julie says Josh's behavior forced her out of the home.
Now, he's not going to harass you anymore. Now, you want to tell me this story about the dog that you didn't get. What kind of a dog is it?
It's a boxer. And when we first split up, I was going to get the dog. He was going to give it to me. But then after the arguing and all that, he decided that he was going to keep the dog. I purchased the dog. He can keep it. That's fine. But I would like my money or the dog.
Did you have the receipt for that?
Shh. Don't take your hands out of your pocket. How long have you had the dog?
July of 2003, a little over a year.
And where are you living now?
I live in an apartment now.
And where do you live?
I live in the same residence, a three-bedroom house.
And the dog has a yard?
Yes, ma'am.
So you would say that the dog is better off with him?
Yes, ma'am.
That's why you left the dog? So,
correct.
What do you want?
I want him to pay me the cash I paid for the dog.
You can't get that.
Okay. And I can't get the dog either.
Of course.
No, the dog is happy where the dog is.
It's in the dog's well-being. I agree.
Take your hand out of your pockets and don't speak until you're spoken to, Mr. Ashcroft. So far, you don't get any money for him harassing you. He's not going to bother you anymore. You made him pretty mad if he hit your car with his truck. I don't know what the argument was about, nor do I care, quite frankly. I got enough to worry about my own arguments. He owes you $700 for the damage he did to your truck, because he did that because he was angry. And when you have a bad temper, you have to pay for that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So, your counterclaim in the amount of $4,150 for harassment, the dog, and the kitchen sink is resolved this way. He pays you $700 to get your car fixed. And you, instead of having this lovely damsel as a roommate, have your brother. Good luck to you both.
Yes, ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was contractually obligated to pay the rent, the 12-month lease agreement that we both signed.
I don't owe him for rent. His brother is paying the rent.
The judge made a correct decision in leaving the dog where he belongs, and that's in the backyard of the house, not cramped up in some one-bedroom apartment.
I do think it's better for the dog.
I'm just glad it's all over with.
No more relationships for me.
And now the next case.
All parties versus Muth. Step forward, please.
18-year-old Beverly Lopez and her boyfriend, 20-year-old waiter George Chantarasaka, are suing George's former lover, 19-year-old tutor Saram Muth, for breaking into their home and stealing property.
Pronounce your last name for me.
Chantarasaka.
Chantarasaka. What's your first name?
George.
George. Do you mind?
No.
According to your complaint, this young lady is George's former girlfriend.
Ex-girlfriend.
Former, that's former.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
And it is your claim that she broke into the apartment that you now share with George.
Yes.
Broke the door to your bedroom, vandalized the room, and took some of your property. Your defense is that it's your apartment, and you have the right to go into your apartment because you're on the lease.
Yes.
And you did take some of her property, but that was a mistake.
Yes, I did.
But that you gave it back to her.
Yes, I did.
When did you break up with George?
We broke up a week before I left, which was about May 24th.
And when did you come back to the apartment on the incident that Miss Lopez is complaining about?
A week after June 11th.
And when did you move into the apartment, Miss Lopez?
I think the last week of May.
And you moved in with George?
Yes.
So now he's your boyfriend?
He's been my boyfriend. We broke up for about a month, and that's when he got with her.
So you went from her to her, back to her, is that right? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
You must have some secret something, George, and if you do, it's got to be a good secret, because I don't see it. Now, you came back June 18th. Tell me why you came into the apartment. What were you looking for?
I came back to the apartment to drop off his wallet because he left it in my cousin's car. And I was there to pick up some of my stuff and take it back to California with me. Little did I know, my door was locked. So out of anger, I broke my door.
The door that you had that you say was locked, is that a door to a bedroom that you had shared with George?
Yes.
So it was George's bedroom as well?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I broke off the doorknob, went in, took my stuff, and I also took her stuff out of anger.
And where did you put them when you took them?
I actually took it with me to California. But then I realized my stupidity, and I brought it back the next day. You're lying.
Just a second. Did you get it back?
No. I didn't get any of my stuff back.
Show me that you brought it back and gave it to her.
I have a witness who can't come in because she's a minor.
Well, then if you have a witness that I can't question, then you have no witness.
You're right. I don't. But I did bring it back. Why would she wait for a month to file a report saying that I stole her stuff? I called you and I told you that I wanted my things
Listen,
back.
Miss Lopez, don't speak to her. Speak to me.
Okay.
Did you get your property back?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Do you have a bill for the replacement of the doorknob?
No, I don't.
No, I don't know.
But this is the doorknob. This is how it looks when she broke it off.
I don't need the doorknob, madam. She says she broke the doorknob. I need what it's going to cost to fix it.
Well, we don't have the bill.
You have a list of items that she took out of your room?
I have a police report.
Well, you originally told the police, madam, that all the stuff that was taken was original value and current value were the same, $900. Why are you suing her now for $4,500?
Because my things are actually worth more than $900 at
You
the
mean
time.
they increased in value since you filed the police report?
No, I didn't.
Listen to me. If you file a police report and they ask you what the value is and you gave them their original value and the current value, I assume that when you filed that police report you were trying to be as accurate as possible. Is that right?
Yes, but at the time I wasn't really thinking because I was really...
And now you're thinking? Is what you're telling me now you're thinking? Heaven help me. You have no right to take up property and you have no proof that you returned it. I have no idea how much it's going to cost to fix the doorknob because you don't bring me a bill.
And she broke my video camera too.
You have a bill to have it fixed?
No, I don't.
Well, what am I supposed to do? I'm not a mind reader.
Your Honor, I did not break his video camera.
I'm not considering the video camera because people have to know that when they come to court, they have to be prepared. They have to be prepared with documents. They have to be prepared with receipts. They have to be prepared.
But
I'm speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They have to be prepared with an estimate of what it's going to cost to fix property if there's an allegation of damage. If you don't have that, the judge isn't going to get it for you.
Your
George, you got it?
Yes, yes.
Good. As far as you're concerned, you made this report soon after the incident occurred. You told the police what happened. You told the police what your property was worth. You told them at that time that it was worth $900, which is probably a stretch. Certainly that stretch isn't going to be stretched into $4,500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
What is our excuse? You must step out.
I think they're just angry and jealous.
I don't know what I did.
I had her boyfriend for a month. He doesn't want her anymore. She called my phone and made threats. She's psycho. Of course, she's capable of doing things.
Crazy.
Michael Musgrove is suing his ex-girlfriend, student Kathleen Spear, for running over his dog and crashing into his house. Kathleen says the accident wasn't her fault.
Yes, case number 200 on the calendar in the matter of Musgrove versus Spear. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Mr. Musgrove.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant used to be your girlfriend.
Yes.
And then she moved on to what she considered greener pastures and she became your roommate's girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Trying to get the logistics of it, but you had a house and your roommate was in a house behind your house?
Yes, guest house.
Guest house.
Yes.
And Miss Spear moved into that guest house with your roommate?
Supposedly, yeah, she was there quite often.
Or she was there quite often. Okay. Your complaint is that on one of the days when she was visiting your roommate, she ran over your dog and ran into your patio, causing damage to your house.
Yes, ma'am.
You want her to pay all the vet bills and pay the damage that she did to the house. And Miss Spears says you're just being unreasonable. Were you at home when this happened?
Yes, I was.
Tell me when it happened.
Memorial Day weekend, the 29th, I guess it would be the 30th. It was 12:30 at midnight.
12:30, that would be in the morning, Mr. Musgrove.
Sorry.
Are you nervous?
Yes.
Are you nervous being here?
Yes.
Do I make you nervous?
A little bit.
Perfect. Okay, so at 12:30, that's in the a.m.
Correct.
Tell me what you heard.
I heard a car coming up my driveway. Not exactly slow. I heard a loud yipe, which was my dog, and a pretty decent crash, which was my patio cover.
Now, where had your dog been?
He was in the backyard on a run. I have about a 50-foot cable run. He's on a leash. That's where I tie him up during the day.
What kind of dog is it?
They're pit chow.
Combination pit bull and chows?
Yes, ma'am.
How many do you have?
I have 2.
And how old was the one that was hit by Miss Spear?
They're 5 years old. They're both brothers.
Are they friendly?
Yes. If, of course, they know you.
If they know you, they're friendly?
Yes.
Okay. So you went outside?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what you saw.
Walked out. Actually ran out. See my dog limping out from behind her car. And, of course, bleeding from his rear foot. His foot was smashed. Completely looked like, say, a duck's foot, if that's what you want to describe it. My patio cover was ripped from the house and pulled down. One of the pillars was knocked out. Concrete was broken out of it where it was fastened to the ground. We went through a big argument on it.
Had an argument with her. Did she get out of the car?
Yes, she did.
What did she say when she got out of the car?
Oh my God, you know.
And what did you say to her?
Well, you want the exact words or roughly?
I've been around. I've heard everything.
Okay, well, pretty much, you know, what
You doing? What are you doing in my driveway? You know, you're not supposed to be back here. What did you do? Like, you tore up my house, you hit my dog.
Why wasn't she supposed to be back there?
I've asked several times not to park on the property. They didn't want, you know, oils and stuff all over the drive. My drive for myself to park, and the drive also for the tenant to park.
Do you own this house?
Yes, I do.
So you rent to Miss Spears' then current boyfriend?
The current boyfriend I rent to. Miss Spears was my girlfriend at the time, so.
She wasn't your girlfriend at the time when she hit the dog?
No, so she wasn't my tenant.
No, I understand that. Okay. Just follow what I'm saying. Try not to be too nervous. I only digest litigants on Thursday. This is Thursday. Okay, you took your dog to the vet. Do you have the vet bills?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them, please.
These are the vet bills. These are the pictures. This is the bill also for the awning. I don't know if you need that right now. Okay.
Dog had surgery?
Yes, ma'am. Close to 20 stitches, if I'm not mistaken.
How's the dog?
He's doing okay now. He's still having trouble getting around, but he's doing all right.
Doing better?
Yes.
Okay, Miss Spear, now I'll hear you. May 30th, 2004. Coming home, it's 12:30 in the morning.
It was actually earlier than that. It wasn't 12:30. It had to be about 10:30.
Okay.
And wasn't coming down the driveway any faster than you would come down a driveway. But he leaves his dogs out purposely when I go over there. It's like he knows I'm afraid of his dogs. It's like we've always had a problem with his dogs. He leaves them out on purpose. The night that I came home, it was like...
Just a second, wait 1 second. The night that you came home, were you a tenant of the place?
No, I was at Aaron's house.
So you were visiting someone?
Yes.
Who was a tenant of the plaintiff's?
Yes.
So he doesn't have to do anything to satisfy you. If you're afraid of his dogs, that's too bad. Go ahead. So you're coming home from where?
I was coming from my house, actually. No, over to Aaron's house to meet Aaron over there. I actually have my own house. I just refer to... It's my boyfriend's house, so I refer to it as home, whatever. I was on my way from my home.
What kind of work do you do?
Huh?
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a student.
Student of what?
I attend Oxnard College.
For what?
Addictive disorders. Hmm? I major in addictive disorders.
You major in addictive... You major in addictive disorders?
Yes.
Are you in a program?
Am I in a program?
Yes.
No.
Have you ever been in a program?
No.
Do you need a program?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Michael Musgrove claims his ex-girlfriend Kathleen Spear ran over his dog. Michael says, in doing so, she crashed into the side of his house.
Okay. You're on your way to pick up your boyfriend or to meet your boyfriend at his house from your house.
Mm.
Go ahead.
And I came down the driveway, and it was dark. As I'm pulling in, I saw the one dog in his front window. I assume they were both in the house. So as I'm coming down the driveway, the next thing you know, I run into the black dog. But I didn't run over his dog, and we ran over his foot. And it was there's like a scratch on his foot. It's not like something that, in my opinion, required all that surgery. And I even offered to pay for part of the bill and stuff. But
who was supposed to pay for the other part?
The one who left his dog outside.
It's his house.
Yeah, but on a lead that's so long that it goes right across the driveway almost to the front door of the tenant's house.
It's his house.
The rental property in the back is all considered...
You don't live there.
So if Aaron had ran him over, it would have been different?
Why are you asking me questions? I sit here, you stand there. I ask you questions, you answer the questions. Aaron didn't run him over. You ran him over. Aaron didn't damage his house. You damaged his house. What were you going over there for at 10:30 at night?
To meet Aaron.
To do what?
I think it's none of your business.
Oh, no, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I have to ascertain whether earlier in the evening you had been either drinking or doing drugs, whether or not you were intoxicated or high, because this was clearly a house that you had been to frequently. You knew that the dogs were on long leads. You knew that he kept them outside. So one would expect you to be either very careful when you came up to the house, or if you weren't very careful, perhaps you were, I don't know, doing a scientific test with regard to this program that you attend at college. In any event, I have had enough playing with these people. You owe him for all the damage that you did to both his house and his dog. His vet bills alone were $1,856 for both surgeries, subcutaneous fluids. They indicated that this was a severe wound. I have seen the pictures of it. This was not a scratch. He had additional damage to his home of $2,542. I suggest that when you're not in your program, you find some way to compensate him. Judgment for the plaintiff, $4,398. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It had his foot was hurt. It wasn't all splattered.
Well, it was beyond a scratch.
It's not exactly a duck foot. Some of the skin's peeled off.
There was surgery involved.
Okay, that one looks pretty bad.
There was a lot of blood.
This one looks pretty bad.
Whether she had been drinking that night or not, I didn't have time to find out.
I guess I feel bad. I hurt the dog.
Fellow motorist, Weight Loss Center salesperson Danielle Caruso for ramming her Nissan Sentra in a fit of road rage. Danielle says it was Marquita who hit her.
Yeah, this is case number 87 on the calendar in the matter of Wilcox versus Caruso. And look, we have visual aids.
Visual aids.
Visual aids.
Would you tell everybody to sit down, please?
Oh, yeah, have a seat. Thanks for reminding me.
Officer Byrd, we have a case here of two young ladies involved in a case of road rage. You don't have anything to do with this case other than you own this car that she was driving.
And my father.
But you don't know anything about it.
No, nothing.
So you can sit behind the visual aid over there.
Sure.
Usually we have guys involved in road rage. You know, they get all those hormones and stuff they have all juiced up. Anyway, Ms. Wilcox, it is your claim that the defendant in an act of road rage caused an accident which caused your car to be damaged.
Yeah.
She says that you were the one responsible for this unfortunate incident that happened on the highway, or were it not for your actions, the accident would not have taken place. So first, why don't you tell me when this incident happened and where you were going?
On the morning of February 12th, 2004, I was on my way to work.
What time?
At about 9:20, between 9:20 and 9:30.
What time do you do at work?
10 o'clock.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a paralegal.
What kind of car were you driving?
A Nissan Sentra.
What year?
2002.
And you have a current valid driver's license and did at the time of the incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell me what happened.
On the morning of February 12th, I was on my way to work. I was traveling southbound on Nob Hill Road, which Nob Hill Road, if you enter the left lane, it turns onto the expressway, which is State Road 84. We consider it to be I-595.
Which is your car?
I'm number 2. Mrs. Knight was number 1. As we entered on the expressway, I proceeded over into the center lane. As this lane ends, if you stay in this lane, you'll end up getting back off the expressway. Miss Knight was upset that as we went to get on the expressway, I entered in front of her to get on the expressway. She was behind me yelling obscenities, acting like she was going to bump the back of my car.
So maybe you cut her off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Shh. Maybe you cut her off?
Yes.
And she was angry?
Yes.
Go ahead.
We entered on the expressway. I proceeded into the center lane. Mrs. Knight came around me from the center lane to make her way into the third lane, where she hit that vehicle, knocked her into the median. She then came around me. As she came around me, she gave me her middle finger, as to say, you know, what the middle finger means. She came around me. She then bumped the front of me to cut me off and knock me out of my lane. She knocked my car spun out of control over here, and then back over here where I landed into the path of the first car that she knocked out, which is vehicle 3. She continued east on State Road 84, where 2 cars had to follow her to bring her back.
Not your car?
No. I was knocked off into the median. As she came back yelling, she came back cursing.
Okay, stop. Go pick it up in a second.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, Your Honor. Actually, there's no way possible that I could have proceeded 3 lanes over, because at 9:30 in the morning on 595, it's a major highway.
No, don't tell me what's impossible.
I have a picture here
just
to show you. Okay, so the accurate is, she was in front of me, like she said. I'm here, smashing her brakes on, flicking me off as I waved and killed her with kindness, because my mom always taught me, you kill people with kindness. Don't feed into them. So I didn't. I tried to get over another lane and just chose right here. She got in front of me again, smashing on her brakes on a major highway, flicking me off as I'm laughing at her, because it was kind of comical to me. I was on my way to work as well. I did get over into the third lane because we still had the on-ramp lane. And as I did, I passed her. And when I passed her, I looked right at her and said, yeah, baby, you ain't in front of me anymore. I enjoyed that because you know what? She can't smash her brakes in front of me anymore. So I'm not going to rear-end someone and be at fault. So I proceeded to pass her. As I proceeded to pass her, she sped up and tried to cut in front of me. She couldn't because my car had a little more power. I had a Ford Taurus, and it did pass her. As I passed her, she tried to push me into this lane. I couldn't go because there was a BMW truck. I did not hit that BMW truck. It is not in the accident report. That BMW truck had to go into the side of the highway here to avoid me hitting her because it was a near miss, like it says right here. At that point, I decided to stay in this lane. That's when she continued to come in this lane, swiped the back end of my car here, which, due to her, driving ability, spun her out into a NASCAR scene, which spun her out uncontrollable until she sideswiped the front end of the BMW truck, which ended them both up, her in the middle median grass area. I had no choice because there was so much traffic still by us to exit off, stop and call 911, which I did, and it's in the 911 report. At that point, by the time you exit, go through a shopping center and get back on the highway, it takes a couple minutes. I then got back on the highway this way, met at the accident in the median, and her hands were going all up in the air, how I was wrong. Like I said, my mom told me to
May
kill
I
him
see
with
the
kindness.
police report, please?
I have the police report right here.
I'd like to see it.
And, Your Honor, she did hit the first car.
Just a second. Did you speak to the police
Yes, I
officer?
did.
And you spoke to the police officer. Did the driver of the BMW speak to the police officer?
Yes, they spoke to each of us separately.
Okay, that's what it suggests here. Now, after the police officer questioned the plaintiff and the driver of the BMW, you were issued a citation for careless driving. And I'm going to quote what the police officer wrote in the police report, which says exactly what she says happened. That you were driving fast. It said that vehicle number 3 was traveling on the inside lane, that vehicle number 3 was knocked off the road because of your driving, that you went over from one lane all the way over to the other lane. That's not the way we drive.
Excuse me, Your Honor. That vehicle that is the witness of vehicle number 3 did not, they were on the highway prior to us entering the highway, so she did not see the reason why I was driving accurate exactly.
I don't know what she saw or not. All I know is you came onto the highway and you proceeded, because your car, according to this, was going faster than her car, to go all the way over into the far left lane. That's what this says you were doing. You were in a big hurry.
To avoid someone from smashing their brakes on.
Madam, I do not believe you. I do not believe that this woman got in front of you and then smashed her brakes on so that you would hit her in the rear. She doesn't look like a psychotic to me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Says, fellow motorist Danielle Caruso rammed her Nissan Sentra in a fit of road rage. Danielle says Marquita was trying to cause an accident.
Let me see your damages, please.
This is my damages, the estimate from her insurance company, and this is my pictures of my car as well.
It's clear that she hit your car.
Yes, ma'am. 2 witnesses had to bring her back, and they both came back to the scene to let the police know that they wanted to make sure that she was coming back.
Okay. The objective things that I have are a police report, which is totally consistent with the plaintiff's story. I have pictures which clearly indicate to me that something hit her car, not that her car hit something else, which is totally consistent with this version of events. And I have a story that suggests to me that you were traveling too fast, that you wanted to get over into the fast lane. And not only did you almost cause an accident with another car, because you were going fast enough, and according to you, that road is very heavily traveled.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could not possibly have gone from the far right lane to the far left lane.
Especially
But you
on high
did.
speed. I did.
But you did, because you cut off the BMW.
The BMW collided
All
with her
right.
car.
All right. You lost your temper. You acted like a fool, and you shouldn't have.
I waved at her and smiled.
You acted like a fool. Did you have insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What was your deductible?
It's $500.
Okay, so you're really looking for the $500 deductible?
Well, no, because in the state of Florida, we're not required to carry comp and collision. At the time, I did not carry comp and collision.
You did not?
No, ma'am.
Why didn't you carry collision?
At the time, it wasn't on my policy. I had a policy under my mother, and at the time, it just wasn't. We did not know.
Is the car fully paid for?
No, ma'am.
Well, if it's not fully paid for, you have to carry collision.
Yes, you do. In the state of Florida, it is required.
Just a second. We understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't have a car that's fully paid for, you are required to carry collision insurance. So you're going to send to me a copy of your insurance policy that was in existence on the car at the time of this accident in February. Now, did you have your car fixed?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I just haven't had it to pay for it yet. I'm still paying the car note. I just haven't had it to pay the damages.
Okay. This is what we're going to do, Miss Wilcox. I believe that the defendant is responsible for your damage to your car. And either your out-of-pocket expenses are $500,
yes, ma'am,
or they are $4,300. And I'm going to defer that judgment until you furnish me with the insurance policy that was in effect in February of 2004 when this accident happened. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, judgment for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I did not hit her car. That's why my car had no damage.
She had a white car. My car is blue. I had white paint on my car. So how would she not have damage?
Miss Wilcox's hands were all up in the air, freaking out, yelling in road rage.
Mrs. Knight was totally upset that I got in front of her.
I just laughed and killed her with kindness.
She gave me the finger. She came back yelling.
I'm glad it's over with and done and taken care of.
Oh, God, it's just a lesson learned. I know there are crazy people out on the world that don't need to be driving, and I'm happy that justice was served today.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton are suing Mary's brother, Michael Manry, for medical bills and personal belongings.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2117, Favre Stockton versus Manry.
Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Manry, this is your sister.
Correct.
And that is her
Fiance.
And you have a son who is 19.
Yes, Your Honor.
How many other children do you have?
I have 3 altogether.
How old?
One is almost 30, the other one is 18, and then I got the 19-year-old, which one here.
Okay. And your son, who is now 19, is the subject of this case. Who had custody of the children?
I got custody of Dakota now.
When did you get custody of the children?
Only when he was 18 years old.
Do you have those papers, sir?
Yes, I do.
May I see them, please? Okay, so this grants you, sir, legal and physical custody of Dakota Manry until further order of the court. So what this case is about now, and I assume from what I've read, that Dakota has certain special needs.
Yes, ma'am.
And because of his special needs, he is unemployed. Did he finish any sort of a high school?
He graduated.
He graduated from
Yes.
high school?
Yes.
Did he go to a special school?
He went to a regular school, but he was in special education.
And when he graduated, did he graduate when he was living with you?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what your case is about. At some point, according to you, you have a niece. And your niece wanted to have Dakota come and stay with her for a couple of days. You were, at the time, according to your answer, sort of in between residences. You were evicted from one place and going someplace else?
I was in the process of moving. I got my niece to go with me to, ask her if she'll bring me to go get Dakota by my cousin's house. And she said, sure.
Okay. Dakota went to live for a few days, at least, at your niece's house.
No, not live there. No, not live there. No, ma'am.
Well, he was there overnight.
He was over there overnight.
How many nights was he there overnight?
I think about maybe a week. I was supposed to be
okay.
3 days.
So he was there.
Yeah.
During that time, you, who are his aunt,
yes, ma'am,
went to your niece's house and you saw Dakota there.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, became concerned because, according to you, it looked like he hadn't showered in a week.
He was in dirty clothes. He just looked awful.
So you decided to take him to live with you?
I asked him, I said, do you want him to the house to stay, a little while, where he can eat and all that, because he looked like he hadn't ate either.
Okay. Well, this is what your case is about. You decided to take him, didn't discuss it with his father, During the time he was with you, he had some expenses. You want his father to be responsible for those expenses, and you want his father to return certain of his personal property. That's what the case is about.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. First, let me deal with all things legal. I have an order here dated January 21st, 2021, which grants physical and legal custody of Dakota to his father. Do you have any subsequent order granting you custody or guardianship, is my question.
I have power of attorney.
That is not the same thing. Can I see what they have?
Power of attorney when I didn't give her permission. I got custody. Okay.
Okay, this was signed by Dakota, so he's giving you legal power to act on his behalf.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Dakota, by signing this power of attorney, he's saying that I am a whole person, and I give you the right to make medical decisions for me if he can't do them. It's a general power of attorney in case he becomes unable to make decisions on his own. This is an order of custody. You have power of attorney. Power of attorney suggests to me that Dakota wants to emancipate himself from his father, wants someone else to act on his behalf. It becomes a complex question because if Dakota has special needs and if he can't act on his own, and a court has already ruled that his father should have custody of him, either you have a power of attorney and he's emancipated, in which case his father's not responsible for any of his medical bills, or this is invalid because he can't sign a power of attorney because he doesn't have the mental capacity to understand all of the implications of this power of attorney. Now, your nephew was in special classes.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know what the nature of his disabilities are?
Fetal alcohol syndrome.
Is that his diagnosis, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
He had, according to you, after you took him from your niece's house, and you do acknowledge you took him without his father's permission.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We was not talking, me and him.
It doesn't make any sense if you were talking or not.
I didn't have his number, and I asked Dakota, I said, text your daddy to let him know you're coming with me. Dakota said, and he showed me where he texted Michael. Now, I don't know if it was on a different Facebook page.
No, it's your responsibility to notify his guardian, who has custody, that you have taken physical custody of him.
Right.
And when did you take physical custody of him? Give me the month, day, and year.
May 20th of this year, 2022.
Now, while you had physical custody of Dakota, you indicate that he had surgery.
Yes, ma'am.
And part of what you want Mr. Manry to pay for is the ambulance bill. What kind of surgery did he have?
Brain surgery, and he had a feeding tube put in him.
Just a second. What caused you to take him to a hospital or to a doctor?
Your Honor, when he arrived at the house on the 20th, he had very bad slurred speech, and his balance was completely off. He was falling over. Your Honor, it was like he was a drunken man.
Let me go back to you for a second, sir. While Dakota was with you in the months just prior to May, did you notice Dakota having difficulty in his gait?
Not like he was explaining to me, I was going overboard.
No, did you?
But his balance was off, okay.
Did you inquire? Did you take him to the doctor?
I did. I took him, actually, right after I got him.
So you saw that balance was off a while ago?
When I noticed that he had headaches, all right, because his dream, thanks to me, was wrestling. He loves wrestling. I put him in wrestling. I talked to the promoters, and I did that for him. But when I seen every time he got body slammed, and this and that, I had to take him out of it. I got concerned because he was complaining of headaches. So I made him an appointment, and I waited for a referral. Well, when the referral came in, my kid was kidnapped.
So he never actually saw the second doctor?
No.
Okay. Do you have any records?
Well, I couldn't get the records. I tried to get them.
Once something went wrong, my kid died doing surgery. I couldn't even be there for him and all that. Anything could have happened.
Just a second. I'm following you, sir. Now, when did you take him for this brain surgery?
I took him the first week of June. I took him to do a CAT scan, And as soon as she did that, we went to the hospital. We didn't leave the hospital. They put him in the ER. And from the ER, we went to Florence, Alabama. And then the surgeons there couldn't do it because it was so big.
What was so big?
Your Honor,
brain.
they found a mass the size of a grapefruit. The first week, Dakota came to stay with us after we noticed the balance issues and the slurred speech. She took him to Dr. who diagnosed him with being severely malnutritioned. Your Honor, when he came to my house, his
liar.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. Your Honor, sorry. My apologies.
His leg was no bigger round than my wrist.
I got it. Mr. Manry, everything has to be put in perspective. You had a lot of things going on. And if Mr. Stockton's reporting to me is accurate, even though there might be some bad feeling of the way your sister and her fiancé took physical custody of Dakota, you really have to be in a position to say thank you to them, because you, for whatever reason, not for lack of trying, nobody is suggesting for lack of trying, you did try to take him to a doctor, you did see that there were things wrong with him. I understand that it's not always that easy to get the right specialist to get involved in this kind of surgery, but you really have to take a breath. Yeah. And I assume it's accurate, because I cannot assume that anybody would perform brain surgery on a child that was not necessary. That
okay, why she couldn't call me?
She should, just a second. Just a second. Your sister should have called you and told you that Dakota was going into the hospital to have surgery. That would have been the nice thing to do. Did you do that?
She did.
No, she did not.
She called.
I called my mother.
Well, calling your mother.
His phone was disconnected. I did not have the new number until he called me or texted me with a bunch of drama. That's when I got his number.
You took my kid from me. You kidnapped my son no matter what.
Mr. Manry, what I want you to do is just take a breath for a moment.
Yes, ma'am. Dakota kept texting me, you know, he kept on like video chatting me and everything. And then all of a sudden, like a light switch, he changed and everything. The boy's mind's being poisoned by Mary and
No, so far, Mr. Manry, you're not losing this case, so I don't know what you're agitated about.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton claim Mary's brother, Michael Manry, owes for medical bills and personal belongings. Michael is countersuing, saying they illegally took his son from his custody.
Mr. Manry, Dakota was only at your niece's house for a short while. You already told me that when he came to you, his gate was off. So right before he went to stay for a couple of days at your niece's house, was his speech slurring?
No, he always had a speech impairment because of the disability, but his speech was not slurred at all. That is a lie. Him having the skinny arms and all, that's all
okay,
lie.
I'm not talking about skinny arms. I'm talking about his slurred speech. What I was saying to you, Mr. Manry, is that I don't think there are any bad guys here. I don't think that you're a bad guy. And I don't think that your sister and her fiancé meant any harm when they saw a situation that they thought was dangerous. And as it turned out, they were able to get him seriously needed medical care. That doesn't mean it was all done right. But what you're asking for is to be compensated by the defendant for the cost of the ambulance bill that you incurred. Now, this power of attorney was signed by Dakota, if in fact he had capacity to sign this power of attorney. It was done 2 weeks after his first surgery. So up until that time, even if I could construe this as a valid document, his father had legal and physical custody of Dakota. And I assume that's because he had special needs and is unable to live on his own. Is your son able to live on his own?
No, he never will.
Okay, so that's what I assume as a result of this order. If you want this order changed, you have to go back to the court in Mississippi. You have to be declared his guardian.
Your Honor, we did not want to be declared his guardian. The reason the POA came about to start with, during the entire surgical
Yana, can I say something?
The father was aware of it. So was the mother. The mother was actually present at most all of the appointments.
It doesn't matter. The mother doesn't have custody, legal or physical.
We were under the impression and were told she did that he only had a temporary custody. So she showed up to say she had to sign all the documents. She was going to do this. She was going to do this. She was going to do this.
Did she sign the documents?
She signed some. Then under social services directions, Mary was informed she should go after a power of attorney. It was discussed with both Dakota and her.
It may be. That's not a lawyer. That's bad advice. Now, just before I get to the issue of clothing, property, whatever he has that's at your house and where it should go from here, your first stop is to go back to the court in Mississippi that issued this order.
Yes, ma'am.
And say to them, I need Dakota's law guardian. He'll be appointed a guardian for himself, independent of you, and they will interview him and they will do certain evaluations of him and determine where it is that he wants to live. But you have to do that in court. You can't do that ad hoc because you relied on his mother's statements that she had the authority to sign off on these things. She did not until this is changed. And if you want to change it, you are free to go in and try, and then Dakota will be interviewed and seen by a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and he'll have a medical evaluation and determine whether or not he is a person who actually requires guardianship. And if he requires guardianship, you can petition for that, and you'll have a trial. This is not that trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Did Dakota have Medicare?
Medicaid.
He had Medicaid.
That would pay for the ambulance ride.
Yeah, I just want to know if he had Medicaid. He did.
I did give them the Medicaid number, and they keep sending me a bill, and I called them, and they said because it's a different state, it's not covered.
It doesn't matter. Tell them to send their bills to his father. Tell them that you do not have custody or guardianship of this child. His father has custody, guardianship, and this bill is not yours.
The bill is going to Dakota. They're going after Dakota for it. His Medicaid didn't pay for it.
They may be going after Dakota for it. They will be very smart seeking payment from people who can pay them, which is his parents. Right now, you're not legally responsible to pay for his ambulance bill. The only person who might be legally responsible for it is his father, and that will be up to the ambulance company to do. This is not your responsibility at all. So discount the ambulance bill. Next to Dakota's things, you want property that he has in his father's house. So let me go back to you with regard to my statement to you 4 minutes ago. You have to have this custody order modified. You have to go back to the same court that issued a legal and physical custody order of Dakota to his father and say, we would like guardianship of him. He wants to stay with us. He's 19 years old. He will be interviewed. He'll be analyzed. And if at the end of the day you get guardianship of Dakota, then his father may or may not turn over whatever property he has. Dakota's never worked. So whatever property he has was either purchased or given to him by either his mother or his father or other relatives.
A lot of it was his mom that paid for the stuff.
I don't know that.
No, the bottom line is why all this balls down through, Your
So far, Mr. Manry, you're not losing this case, so I don't know what you're agitated about. You're not losing. You're not losing. What I'm telling the plaintiffs is that if they think that they can provide a more pleasant, stable environment for Dakota, they have the right to petition for guardianship of him. Now, it would be in Dakota's best interest long-term if he were to have contact with both his mother and his father. Contact. I'm not saying live with. Mother, father, and his aunt, and his soon-to-be uncle, as soon as you make up your mind and give her a ring. It's in his best interest. He needs the largest community that he can.
I agree.
Okay, we're going to stop throwing barbs because that only serves to inflame already raw emotions. I want you to say, I am angry that I wasn't consulted in this massive surgery that your son had, but I'm grateful that it was done, because if it wasn't done, in all probability, he wouldn't be here. You just have to think about that.
Mary Favre and Jason Stockton have accused Mary's brother, Michael Manry, of owing for an ambulance bill. Michael claims Mary and Jason took his son without his permission.
What I'm telling you is a very simple procedural thing where you have to go. You can't sue him for the return of Dakota's things unless you have guardianship of Dakota.
Understood.
Because he already is the subject of a recent order of custody from a court. That's what you have to have. You can take that bill from the ambulance service, put it in an envelope, we'll get you the address, and that's where that goes. That's his father, who is his legal parent under this order. So send that bill to them so you don't have to worry about that bill. As far as his property is concerned, that has to go along with an order of custody or guardianship, and that's something that you should do. But, Mr. Manry, I am not making a decision with regard to his custody or not. What I'm asking you is, until a court reviews whatever orders they're going to make with regard to custody and guardianship, first, I know you may be angry, but they probably saved his life by getting him to the doctor that they did. And if they removed a massive tumor from his brain, you should say, thank you for doing that, because it was a month after he was living with you. Someone else took your son and saved his life. And for that, at least, you have to be grateful. You can be angry. You can be angry that you didn't get it done before. You can be angry that somebody else did it without consulting you. You can be angry at all of those things. But at the same time, you have to feel grateful that it was done.
There wasn't no reason they kidnapped my son.
Okay. Mr. Manry, you keep going back to the same song.
I was worried about
You keep going back to the same song. And what I'm saying to you is, their next stop, if Dakota wants to live with them, and he's right now over 19 years old, is to the court who issued the order to modify that order. All I'm saying to you is, I want you to say, I am angry that I wasn't consulted or didn't participate in this massive surgery that your son had, but I'm grateful that it was done, because if it wasn't done, in all probability, he wouldn't be here. You just have to think about that. What I'm telling you is, you have to love your child more than you, at this moment, dislike your sister and her fiancé, because they were able to take control of a situation and get your child fixed. So is Dakota, just for my own, is Dakota angry with his father?
He's angry that his father won't return any of his wrestling. He is correct. He is a huge wrestling fanatic.
Okay. What particularly does he want? He wants his wrestling?
He wants his wrestling belts. They have replica belts that were made. He wanted his PlayStation 4 and the wrestling game.
PlayStation 4, I'm not interested in that. He wants his wrestling belts.
Yes, ma'am.
Yana, can I show you something right quick on my phone? Dakota kept texting me, you know, he kept on like video chatting me and everything. And then all of a sudden, like a light switch, he changed and everything. The boy's mind's being poisoned by Mary and Jason.
What I'm telling you, Mr. Manry, that's for another court and another day. When Dakota has a lawyer, you may have a lawyer to modify this custody order. Right now, he would like his wrestling belts.
Oh, I want my son to come home.
Okay, then I strongly urge you to go to the court, file a petition against them for custodial interference, or you go to court and file an application for guardianship of Dakota, which is a much more positive thing to do, and let a court that has the social work services, the psychiatric services, evaluate Dakota and figure out in whose best interests are we supposed to place faith. And I think if he is a thinking young man, and you told me that he is because he wants these things that are important to him, he should be able to have a say with whom he lives. Now, you have my ruling. Your next stop, folks, is to modify the order of the court in Mississippi that gave his father custody, physical and legal custody of him. You have to petition for guardianship. That's your next step. So, in that regard, your case is dismissed. Send the ambulance bill to his father.
They got a countersuit.
We're done.
Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm not hearing it, sir.
Okay. I did everything I can for my kids, and
my brother, he said nothing but lies.
When somebody takes your kid without your permission.
But, you know, that's him. I mean, that's what he does.
You don't know where they're at, and you're going crazy because you don't know where your kid's at. That's kidnapping.
I should get a thank you out of it, but he's not going to do that.
I want my son to come home to his daddy because I love him very much. That's my son.
It's about him. It's not about her. It's not about her and her brother. It's not about me and her brother.
My son, I love him. I'll do anything in the world for him.
It's about Dakota.
So you didn't listen to the defendant's counterclaim back there for emotional distress for, I believe it was $3,500. I would have given that to him. I don't think anyone was acting maliciously in this case. Like you said to the father, he should be grateful that his son is alive and his sister took action when he might have been stumbling a little bit. But that's what that cause of action is for, when someone takes an action that was legally incorrect. And here, the plaintiffs had no legal right to take him to get that surgery. I agree that he should have had it and it all came from a good place. However, when you take an action that causes somebody else such severe emotional distress, and I would consider taking someone else's child in for the riskiest surgery that probably exists, qualifies as causing some severe emotional distress. So I probably would have awarded him that if I was ruling.
Well, so let me give you the reason that I didn't bother to hear it. I think the aunt and her fiancé had nothing but pure motives in taking this 19-year-old who they say appeared to be malnourished and they say was diagnosed as being malnourished, which is possible, and it's possible that it was all related to this brain tumor that he clearly had that was impairing his stability, and he was with his father for a year while this tumor was growing. I don't think that they had malicious intent.
Neither do I.
And I think that but for their actions, this 19-year-old boy probably would be dead. If they took out the tumor that was the size of a grapefruit, I would say 6 months later or 8 months later, there's a strong probability that would affect the optic nerve, affect the carotid artery, and gone. So although I could understand his annoyance, from the time they went to live with him until his surgery was a month. And I actually don't believe that this father didn't know where he was for a month, because they evidently have a living mother who they're both in touch with. He was moving around, phone disconnected. At the hospital, the mother showed up. She said, I can sign the documents. Well, you know, you're involved in major surgery for a child. Your focus is not on your brother, who did not take care of business for a year. So I'm going to leave that up to a family court judge to determine who should have custody, and I probably guarantee you that custody will remain with his aunt, because that's what Dakota wants. Father may be angry, but that's what's going to happen. I have no doubt that the father loves him. He did not take good care of him for the year.
Sure.
And so I wasn't going to reward that by giving him any money against these people who had nothing but the child's best interests, when for a year he really didn't take care of business with his son. And that's why I didn't hear his case for emotional distress.
Understood. Thank you.
Case 2113, Pickett versus Glick. All parties, please step forward.
William Pickett is suing his former friend, Clinton Gick, for unpaid car payments and vehicle damage.
Mr. Pickett, you and the defendant, according to what I've read, were friends. You knew each other.
Yes.
You had a car that you were interested in selling. The defendant was interested in purchasing the car. Your car was 10 or 11-year-old vehicle,
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
When had you purchased it?
I purchased it about a year or so prior.
So you only had the car for a year. You were not an original owner.
Yeah.
Did you pay cash?
I did.
How much did you pay for the car?
Roughly $10,000, $10,000.
No, I want to know. I mean, you came to court today, not a roughly. Today we know the numbers. We're not talking about something that happened 20 years ago, something that happened a year ago. You bought a car a year ago. You paid cash for it, according to you. I want to know how much you paid for it. That's easy. You should have those records.
$10,000.
Well, now you say 10, right?
Yep.
Now you say 10. So now I'm going to tell you to go outside and get me the bill of sale for the car.
I did not bring that.
Why?
I didn't think I needed it.
How am I supposed to ascertain what you paid for the car, sir?
I didn't think about that.
Should have thought about it. I thought about it right off the bat. You had the car for 1 year. And when did you sell it to the defendant?
3/18 of 22.
For how much?
$10,000.
Well, then you're a genius businessman, because unless this 10, 11-year-old car, Mr. Pickett, had something really unusual about it, most cars depreciate the moment you drive them out of a lot. You bought this car from a company, which means you paid more for it than if you purchased it through a private person. You understand that?
Yes.
Of course. So there was clearly a markup. Sarah, take a look at a 2012 Dodge Charger
with
148,000 miles.
I got it. Between $7,500 and $10,000 for a private party sale.
Okay, so as I thought, the value of the car went down from when you bought it, but you sold it to him for $10,000 because he was making payments, I assume because he was making payments. Did you have a written contract?
I did.
I'd like to take a look at it. Mr. Glick, how did you know each other, sir?
We worked together. We'd known each other for about a year, I think, at the time the car was sold.
Okay, so the first thing was he traded in something of value, which was he gave you a car.
Correct.
What kind of car did he give you?
A Honda minivan.
Did you have the title to that?
Yes, I did.
Did he turn over the title to you?
He did.
What did you do with the Honda minivan?
I sold it.
To whom?
Someone off of Facebook Marketplace.
Okay, when did you sell it?
A few weeks afterwards.
How much did you sell it for? How much did you say you sold it for?
$1,000, $1,200.
Let's get specific, Mr. Pickett.
$1,000.
I'm not exactly sure what he sold it for, but clearly acknowledges at least $1,000. So this is what the lawsuit is about, and I've read your contract. According to the contract that you have here, you listed the dates, the schedule of payments, and you marked off when he paid and when he didn't. But we're going to go through the dates, and your lawsuit seeks damages to the car, repo fees, the unpaid contract price of the car because you repossessed it and you want him to continue until he's finished paying for it, right? That's what you want.
Yes, ma'am.
And the defendant has a counterclaim. And his counterclaim, in effect, although he doesn't articulate it in legalese, the basis of his countersuit is that there was never any meaningful breach of the contract and that he tried to make his payments pursuant to the contract and that you repossessed the car without just cause, and he's counterclaiming for the money that he put into the car as equity. That's what your counterclaim is.
That's
correct? Okay. So far you put in $4,000. According to this, he paid you March of 2022, April. As a matter of fact, he made 2 payments.
Correct. Payment schedule was for every 2 weeks.
Shh. 6/17, he made a partial payment, but made that up on 7/1, so he was up to date. Then you say on the 15th of July, he missed a payment. Did you miss a payment the 15th of July?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Tell me why.
At that point, the plaintiff had already threatened to repossess the car several times before I'd ever missed a payment on the car.
Because you made a partial payment once in June.
Yeah, and also...
But then made it up again within 2 weeks.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you had already said to him, you missed payments, I'm going to repossess the car.
I informed, I didn't threaten to repossess it.
No.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you missed a payment on July 15th.
Yes, and I informed him when I missed the payment that the reason for missing it, he had just filed for bankruptcy, and with his bankruptcy and the threats to repossess the car, I had decided that I wanted to miss, as it states in the contract, that I could miss 2 consecutive payments before repossession. I wanted to talk to a lawyer and make sure that I wasn't going to be putting even more money into a car that
you weren't going to have equity in.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's why you missed July 15th.
Yes, that's
okay.
correct.
And it's the 29th of July also missed.
Yes. So I attempted to give Mr. Pickett a $500 payment on the 29th. He refused to accept that payment, and I have that in text.
I'd like to see it.
Text messages.
I'd like to see it. Do you acknowledge that he attempted to give you a payment on the 29th?
Yeah, he attempted to make a partial payment.
He attempted to give you $500?
Correct.
And tell me why you didn't accept the $500. He missed the payment on the 15th.
I informed him on the 16th that I would not accept a late payment unless it's in conjunction with the current payment.
You can't change the contract, sir. You can't change a written contract. There was a loan on this car.
Yeah, there was a title loan on it.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. That adds a different wrinkle to this whole thing because you told me you paid cash for the car, so I assume there was not a problem.
William Pickett claims his former friend, Clinton Gick, owes for car payments and vehicle damage. Clinton is countersuing, claiming William sold the car under false pretenses.
Now, you had a written contract with him. If you're changing the terms, he has to agree to the terms in writing in the same force and manner of the original contract, which is this in writing signed by both parties. You have a contract here. The contract says he can't miss 2 consecutive payments. He wasn't missing 2 consecutive payments. He missed July 15th, and he tried to give you one on the 29th of July. If you refuse to accept it, he hasn't missed 2 payments. You refuse to accept the second one. Got it?
Got it.
Okay, well, I see the interchange, Mr. Pickett, and the interchange clearly says you're paying your $1,000 today or returning my car. He says, I'll be giving you my $500 payment that's due today. Then you changed the contract and you said, not acceptable. You're behind $500 and a late payment will only be acceptable with a current payment. Is there anything about that in your contract?
There's not.
Okay, so if it's not in your contract, it doesn't exist, and you had so far no reason to repossess the car. Did he try to make a payment to you in August?
I think one other time between the time I repossessed it.
Okay, well, you had no reason to repossess it so far unless he missed 2 consecutive payments or unless he failed to keep insurance. Did he fail to keep insurance?
I have never been given proof of insurance.
This doesn't require that you are given proof of insurance
or not.
This doesn't say you require proof. Did you have insurance on the car?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Through whom?
Erie Insurance Agency.
Okay, and you have no information to the contrary?
I don't.
Okay, fine. So at the time you repossessed the car so far, Mr. Pickett, you didn't have basis under your contract to repossess the car.
There was also other terms that I believe he had violated.
Well, let's hear them. So far, he didn't miss 2 consecutive payments. Had you filed for bankruptcy?
I had started filing for bankruptcy, yeah.
Is that completed?
Still hasn't been discharged yet. I think I have another month or so.
Was this the first time you filed for bankruptcy? Yes, buyer misses 2 or more consecutive payments. Buyer fails to maintain full coverage under insurance, any significant damage to the vehicle that is not repaired in 30 days. Did you notify Mr. Glick of any damage to the car, give him notice, and say, pursuant to the contract, it has to be fixed in 30 days?
We had talked about it when he came to drop off one of his payments, and he said...
Well, give me a month.
It was...
A month and a year.
It was in June.
June of 2022, he came over to drop off a payment, and that would have either been on June 3rd or June 17th. Correct. Okay, and tell me about the conversation.
I said, hey, there's a dent in the front now. He said he'll get taken care of. At that point, I didn't really inspect the car. Because
well, I don't care what you didn't do. Yeah. I want to know what you did.
Yeah, I told him, it needs to be fixed. And he said he'll get taken care of.
Okay, and?
When I repossessed it, it was still there, as well as more damage.
Okay. Did he talk to you about the dent in the front?
I don't recall that conversation ever happening. There was text messages sent to me about damage to the car. The car had dents and dings all over it when I got the car. I mean, the front bumper even had significant damage to it.
You repossessed the car at the end of August. Where is the car now?
At my house.
What's it doing at your house?
I was just sitting there for the moment.
Well, what's your intention to do with the car?
Give it up in my bankruptcy or repair it and keep it and pay it off.
Who has the title?
The title loan company.
So there was a loan on this car?
Yeah, there was a title loan on it.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. That adds a different wrinkle to this whole thing. Because you told me you paid cash for the car, so I assume there was not a problem. When did you take out a title loan on the car?
I took out the title loan.
Month and year?
One of them was in December of 21.
Did you know that there was a title loan taken out on this car?
I knew that there was one. I didn't know that there were multiple. I don't know. But yeah, I did know there was a title loan.
Did you know in what amount?
No, I was never.
Well, that's pretty dumb of you.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, because if you're buying something free and clear that he owes nothing on, that's one thing. How much was the title loan?
Roughly $6,000 is what was owed on it still at that point when he bought it.
How much did you pay off?
A few thousand by that point. It's super high interest.
Okie dokie. Mr. Pickett, your claim against the defendant is dismissed. I'm now entertaining his counterclaim. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You get stuck with this car. Now, problem is, you drove this car.
Yes.
Was it your primary source of driving the car?
Yes, it was.
Okay. For 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Glick, this was your primary vehicle. How much do you think it would cost you to rent a car per month? Per month. Give me a figure.
To rent a car?
Yeah.
Per month, I would say $900 a month, probably something like that. $900,000 a month, maybe.
Okay. Based upon what you told me, it's not so egregious because you had the use of the car for 10 months. I actually don't think that an 11-year-old car would cost that much to rent. $900 a month, considering that you also paid for your own insurance.
Correct.
And if you rented a car, that the insurance would, of necessity, come with a car. Sarah, could you look up for me best deals on leasing a Dodge Charger? I don't know what that is. Is that a truck?
It's a car.
Is there a site where you could look that up?
I'll see what I could find.
But the intention was that money was going to go towards, something that I would own.
Well, I understand that,
right.
but you had full use of his property for 10 months.
Sure.
You don't think it's fair for you not to pay for some of that use?
I would think the depreciation in the car for the mileage that I put on it would be more than fair. Absolutely.
Everything depends on how much you put down versus how much you pay monthly, so there's a wide range.
Give me the range. He didn't put anything.
$786 a month, $843 a month, but these are for brand new Dodge Chargers, not for 2012.
Oh.
So.
Okay. And according to you, the current low price on this car is $7,500 price.
For a private party.
For a private party, low price, $7,500.
Yes.
So you're going to resell this car, and the car is currently in working order, and the low price on that car is $7,500, right?
Yes.
And he's already paid you $5,000.
Yes.
In order to break even, if you sold that car, all you need is $2,500.
Correct.
So I think that it's more than fair to give you credit for the $2,500 from what you paid.
Okay.
You paid $5,000. Half of that seems to be a more than reasonable figure to have full use of his property, and he repossessed the car. I don't think he had any basis to repossess the car, which is why he dismissed his case. And you certainly don't want to get involved with bankruptcies and payments, so you don't want this car back, because getting this car back will be more trouble for you than anything else.
Exactly.
I absolutely understand that, because then you're dealing with his creditors and whatever. I'm not trusting that whole situation. In any event, I don't think that you paying $2,500 towards the rental of the car over a 10-month period is unreasonable, and then he's whole. Then if he wants to spend money to have the car spruced up before he sells it, well, maybe he can get $8,500 for it, and then he's whole. So now everybody's happy. Judgment on the counterclaim for $2,500. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
I'm very happy.
Need a car? I had a car.
I don't think it was an honest transaction on his part.
I'll keep buying and selling.
So yeah, I think he was just trying to get a quick payday.
So I just want to make sure I have this right. The defendant was paying the plaintiff $1,000 a month towards the vehicle that the plaintiff had a title loan out on, but instead of paying off the title loan so the defendant would have the car free and clear,
right,
he decided to keep the payments and not pay off the title loan.
Correct. Which means that even after he completed the payments, which he was halfway finished with, he could not have gotten clear title.
Yeah.
Because the title is with the loan company. And he's filed for bankruptcy, so you can't come against him.
Jennifer Renner is suing her client, Danny Velasquez, for dance class fees.
Court coming to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2086, Renner versus Velasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Renner, you run a dance studio.
I do.
How long have you had it?
30 years.
And what age children do you teach?
We have a Mommy and Me class, which starts at 18 months, and our oldest student is 19 years old.
And Miss Velasquez has a daughter. And she was at your school during what period of time?
She started in June of 2020, and she quit in June of this year.
Your lawsuit is simple. You claim that Miss Velasquez owes you money for her daughter's dance lessons.
Yes.
The defendant actually disavows owing you any money. She said that you actually behaved in a mean-spirited way in not allowing her daughter to finish her recital. So I'm trying to think back to my days when I was 6 and 7. And if I remember correctly, the name of the school that I went to, and I know that this is not something that everybody is breathless to hear about, but I haven't had one of these cases, and I was thinking back to Miss Nottage, who had a dancing school in her home on Parkside Avenue in Brooklyn. And I do remember that you took classes I took toe, tap, ballet, and acrobatics, which was not my strong suit. Any of them, none of them were my strong suit. Father always said that I should sue the city because they built the sidewalk too close to my behind because my legs are short. So being a ballerina was really not physically possible for me, but in my mind, I thought I was a ballerina. Anyway, as do most little girls, I assume. So you worked during the year, and at the end of the year of your dance class, I remember you gave a recital. Everybody got all excited and dressed for the recital. I assume that's what happens in your class.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's a yes.
Yes.
Did you have a contract with Ms. Velasquez?
I have a registration form which acknowledges receipt of studio policies.
Well, policies is not a contract, but I'll take a look at it anyway. The question is, do you have a signed contract with her?
No.
Okay. May I take a look at that? According to these policies, which are not a written contract because she has not signed this document in particular, you say you acknowledge receipt of it. What it mostly is, tell them what the instructions are and give you a release of liability. It does indicate here that full tuition is due on the first class of each month. And how much was the tuition for Miss Velasquez's daughter?
From January through June, it was $170 a month. And then from September through December, it was $165 a month.
Okay, so around $170 a month. And I assume she was current on her tuition in 2020. And in 2020, did Miss Velasquez make her payments on the first of each month?
Well, I can't say exactly on the first, but yes, it was always current, which is why...
That's not what I asked you. Was it made pursuant to your policies here on the first of each month?
I don't know. I don't remember specifically.
What about in 2021? Were her payments made on the first of each month?
No.
When did she stop making payments in 2021 on the first of each month?
Well, I have emailed spreadsheets here, and so starting in December, she asked me if she could make small payments, increments throughout the month because she was a single mother and wasn't able to make the full payment on the first.
So you said yes, that she could make payments incrementally. Mm-hmm. And do you have that same arrangement with some other parents?
I do.
How many other parents do you have that arrangement with?
Well, anybody who asks in...
How many? You run the school.
5.
How many students do you have?
5.
Okay. So you have that arrangement with this mother plus 5? Mm-hmm. And that is inconsistent with your policies.
Yes.
That would be a yes. Now, tell me what happened, Miss Velasquez, that caused you to fall behind in your payments. You acknowledge you fell behind in your payments.
Yes, I do.
When did you fall behind in your payments?
I asked Ms. Renner if I could start making payments in September of 2021, which I have written as well, if you would like to see that. And in October, I didn't pay anything because my father passed away. And I explained that to her, and then I made up for it in November through payments, and I just continued to pay as I could with being a single mom.
Well, that's not a reason to not pay her, being a single mom, as you could. You understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm sure you're doing the best you can. You're trying to give your little girl, how old is she?
9.
9. Trying to give her the best possible experience. It's all wonderful, but this is her business. And if you owe her money, then you owe her money. Mm-hmm. Since the policies are honored and sometimes not, there is one part of your policy, even though that this is the contract that I actually find ridiculous, because in your lawsuit, you claim you're owed $946 and $7,169.76 interest. That's not happening. And it's not happening. You gave me an easy out because you really don't enforce your own policies.
I try to be kind to people who
And I
need
try
help.
to be kind too. Being kind is not suing somebody for $900 and suing them for $9,000. That's not being kind because, you know, there's no question that you agree that you owe some money.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's an unconscionable, even if there was a contract for it, I would probably find it an unconscionable piece for somebody who owes you less than $1,000 and you want $7,200 because it includes interest. I find that ridiculous. How many students were in Miss Velasquez's class?
Approximately 18.
When you say approximately 18, the number varied based on what?
Well, my memory, it was either 18 or 19 children. I don't remember how many. That's a very large class.
Are you the sole teacher?
Well, I do the ballet, and I have a teacher who teaches the jazz class.
Your daughter takes ballet or jazz or both?
Yeah.
Your daughter stopped going to school when?
May 17th.
Tell me the circumstances.
That was when I got a ledger from the studio that said that I owed $965. And my math was thinking I was closer to like 360. So I kept messaging and asking where the confusion was. And I didn't get a response until May 27th.
That said what?
That said I owed $1,300. And this was from Miss Jenny.
And that was for late fees? What was it for?
The dance team and the costumes for the recital that was coming up.
Okay. Well, do you have a ledger? And I'd like to see your ledger. So far, I have, according to you, what you owe, because you did a breakdown of what you owe. It is your claim that you owe $846, correct?
Yep.
And she says you owe $946. That's without the interest and the late fees.
Yeah.
So you are actually, based upon raw numbers, $100 apart.
I have an email from her stating that she owes $947.
I'd like to see it, please.
And later today.
Do you keep a certain amount of clothes at Miss Barnes' apartment?
No, Your Honor, they're usually in my truck.
So you stay with your mom?
Yeah, that's my primary residence. Like, it's maybe two days out of a week.
Mr. White, this is what we're getting. You see where we're starting to smile?
Jennifer Renner claims her client, Danny Velasquez, owes for dance class fees.
Okay, so in this email, you acknowledge owing $586 and then $360 for team. What is team?
They did like competition teams that I allowed my daughter to be on. Before I let her audition, I made sure that Jenny was okay with my payments, and I sent it all in.
No, I'm just reading the email, which seems to acknowledge that you owed her $947.
Yeah, so the team portion was $361, which is what I thought was owed.
No, you said team, and your regular tuition said that I owed $1,301 when I only owed $586. So $586 and $361 and $947.
You're correct. I just couldn't get any accurate numbers.
I'm taking your numbers that you acknowledge.
Right. First she said it was $1,647 I owed, then she said $1,400.
Right now I have, she says amount owed $946. You said it was $947. So let's say it's $947. And that's without late fees and without interest. So you would consider that a fair number.
Yeah.
And Ms. Rayner, you would consider that a fair number?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think it was fair. I just wish that my daughter would have been able to dance.
Money was due to me, and she was not paying.
I had to go in and be the one that broke her heart.
She argued with every statement we sent her.
We've already found a new studio, and it's amazing.
Pay your bills.
It's a big blessing in disguise that my daughter's not with Jenny anymore.
I'm sure you were a great dancer back in your day. Maybe ballet now isn't for you, but I'm sure you were the cutest one in the class. But I do think it was unconscionable for the owner of the dance studio to agree that the mother only owed around $900, and she wanted to have this court pay her almost $9,000 in late fees and interest. I mean, I think just unconscionable.
It was a good shot. You know, usually when you do a contract, a formal contract, contracts usually say if any part of this contract is found to be either unconscionable or illegal, the remainder of the contract remains in full force and effect. Usually you have something that says that. Well, this was just an acceptance of the school policy, but the school policy clearly was flexible.
It was, and as soon as she said that, I was hoping that she would have drawn up for those 5 or 6 parents that were on a different payment plan. I would have hoped that she, as a business owner, would have drawn up something mimicking a contract with them to show what their agreement was.
Memorialize that agreement.
Because as you said, well, if you're flexible on this point and that point, why are you not flexible on the interest that you...
interest point,
exactly.
which sounded unconscionable.
It did.
Anyway, I really, Sarah, remember those dance classes and crossing Parkside Avenue to go to Miss Nottage's studio. The thing that I remember most about it was the acrobatics class. I swear they had something strung up that looked like a torture chamber. It was strung up from the ceilings and you were put in a harness. You started from one end of the room, and when you got to the minute, she pulled you up on a pulley and you were supposed to do a somersault. And I remember I couldn't get off the ground. My little chubby legs were
flailing,
and I couldn't get my behind over the rest of my body.
Listen, I'm not a dancer either.
And then I started thinking about law school.
Yeah, I think that's a good...
Các bạn ơi, hôm nay thì các bạn sẽ cùng mình
bạn hãy cùng mình tô màu cho bức tranh về cô gái này nhé. Đầu tiên là mình sẽ cùng các bạn tô màu cho chiếc khăn này. Tiếp theo là mình sẽ tô chiếc váy. Giờ mình sẽ tô nốt đôi giày. Mái tóc thì mình sẽ chọn màu nâu để tô. Các bạn ơi, mình đã hoàn thiện cho bức tranh tô màu và đây chỉ là thành quả nha. Đây. Cảm ơn mọi người đã cùng mình theo dõi video này. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại các bạn.